northbound. If you're Durban bound, there's not a problem. But if you're Joburg bound, just getting up in towards the Van Riebeeck village area, it is really just the backlog of that enormous queue that's still clearing through. Gives you an idea some 6 hours later just how enormous that queue must have been. A bit of queuing pressure going up into Pietermaritzburg this morning. The N3 queuing up from Ashburton through to Market Road. That's unusual. We'll keep an eye on that one for you. Gauteng looks all right. And Cape Town reports from Baden-Powell Drive saying sand at Sandy Corner. Very, very sandy are the words being used this morning. So if you move between the N2 highway and Muizenberg, possible diversions around that sand in the bottom of Khayelitsha. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines is cricket action in the Yuksky Derby, which was drowned last night due to rain. The Joburg Super Kings still reign at the top. And in tennis action from the Australian Open, the world number one, Aryna Sabalenka. She had a hard-fought victory over Denmark's Clara Tauson. We'll bring you details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 8 minutes after 6 on this Friday, the 17th of January 2025. Good morning and welcome to it, the Friday edition of The Morning Brief here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Come, let us spend the next 3 hours together informing and engaging each other and sharpening each other's perspectives on the key issues of the day. No Gettysburg address from me this morning, so nothing that will see me standing on some platform and just giving a Gettysburg address of some sorts. But I do want to highlight a few stories that I'm hoping will spark engagement between you and I. The first one has to do with the Judicial Conduct Tribunal hearings. It's been the one major story for this week, I believe, alongside, of course, what has been happening in Stilfontein, at least domestically. But, you know, the hearings into the sexual misconduct allegations that have been leveled against the Eastern Cape Judge President Selbie Mbenenge. And those hearings, you'll know, began on Monday and have continued, and they will continue this morning. To say the details coming out are salacious, scandalous, is perhaps an understatement. I mean, many people have been gripped just watching and jaws dropping ever so often when you hear some of the details of the WhatsApp interchanges between Judge Mbenenge and the judge's secretary, Andiswa Mengo, based at Makanda. Some of those, as you know, have been admitted to by Judge Selbie Mbenenge. Others are being disputed. The proceedings mark a significant moment in South African legal history, needless to say, because the judge is the first judge president to face potential impeachment for sexual harassment. And I'm just wondering, what have you made of the process thus far? Your own reflections of it. I don't know. At this point, I mean, we're still waiting to hear the cross-examination, and later on, the evidence that has been tabled will then be evaluated by the Judicial Conduct Tribunal. And among those, the exchanges that are admitted are WhatsApp messages between the two of them over a period of time around 2021, thereabouts. But the ones that are disputed are images of, you know, where she alleges, the judge's secretary alleges that they were sent to her by Judge Mbenenge, and they show him and show his private parts, and also include pornographic images that she alleges that he sent to her. Those are being disputed. It's the kind of things that you really don't want to associate with our judiciary. And at least to my mind, if I can take out some value at this point, I would say, even though there's still a dispute about whether or not these images were sent to her, etc., at the very least, we are having the conversation about what sexual harassment looks like in the workplace. Not coming to a definitive finding, don't get me wrong, not coming to a definitive finding that the images that are being disputed were sent by him, but at the very least, we are having the conversation of what it looks like when sexual harassment is at play in the workplace. So we'll have a conversation at about 10 to 7 this morning, just reflecting on the first week of those hearings. Then another story that I want to highlight for you is in the second hour. The lobby groups AfriForum and Solidarity have sent letters of demand to President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Basic Education Minister Siviwe Kwagube for certain provisions of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, BELA, to basically, to challenge the coming into effect of those sections. You'll remember these are the sections that had been put on pause pending some further engagement among stakeholders. When that didn't work, they came into effect in December. And I'm wondering, have you read for yourself those provisions of BELA that are contentious? They have to do with the language policy of a school as well as admissions policy, but they insert the head of department. In fact, the head of department in a province within those two policies to say, for instance, where a child has not been admitted into a school, they can appeal that decision to an HOD, and the HOD can order that child be admitted, based, of course, on the dynamics playing themselves out within a particular school, as well as a role for the HOD in the language policies of a school. Those are determined by the governing body, but they give the HOD a say in the process, particularly where it's read that the dynamics have changed. More children now speak a different language than the language of instruction in the school. But despite it coming into effect, AfriForum and Solidarity is still unhappy with it, and we will engage with them here on the show and find out what the position is at the moment. And then lastly, let me flag this story. There's a court ruling that has come out of the Gauteng local division of the High Court here in Johannesburg, which has ruled that the body corporate of a Johannesburg apartment block can disconnect the electricity of a non-paying flat owner. The owner, who owed over 100,000 rand in unpaid levies and electricity charges, had previously argued that such an action would violate his constitutional rights. But as you know, the trustees of a sectional title ownership scheme do have fiduciary duties to the entirety of the body corporate, the owners within that scheme. And I'm wondering, if you live in such a scheme, what is your relationship? What's that dynamic like? Do you understand the responsibilities that the trustees have vis-a-vis your own rights and entitlements as an owner in a sectional title scheme? So those are some of the issues and the stories that I thought I'd flag and get your engagements on. And the number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. And Musa with your news every half hour. Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan watching your sport throughout the morning. Dauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. And Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
To all our esteemed educators, a warm welcome back to school for the year 2025 calendar year. SACE, your professional regulatory body, wishes you an incredible and successful year ahead. Thank you for achieving quality, outstanding 2024 results across all school grades. Continue to inspire a credible and agile teaching profession in and outside your school environment. Your worth and dignity are valued.
Wekundu Wamsimbazi are playing for maximum points to finish top of Group A. But CSC strongly believe that their first position belongs to them. This is the top table clash of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the delight of African football. Simba Sports Club versus CS Constantine. This Sunday, 19 January at 3 p.m. live on SABC1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to N Musa. Good morning to you, N.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Not so happy. The outcomes of that situation in Stilfontein. We're finally going to get perhaps a fuller picture today.
Very true, very true. So over the past couple of days, we have seen operations carried out by the Mine Rescue Services as well as community volunteers that was led by law enforcement agencies at the disused Buffelsfontein mine in Stilfontein, and that resulted in the retrieval of over 200 illegal miners as well as the discovery of 78 bodies. So today, the Minister of Police, Enzo Mchunu, as well as his Deputy Minister will be briefing the public following the completion of the operation. So we will be finding out more on the whole process. And in other stories, some of the 28 Ethiopian nationals alleged to be victims of human trafficking are expected to appear in the Hillbrow Magistrates Court, and they were held captive inside a house in Sandringham in Johannesburg. They have been appearing in 3 separate courtrooms. That's before different magistrates throughout this week. So some appeared in court yesterday and had their cases postponed to different dates, while others are due before court today. The Hawks have made an arrest in connection with the 2024 matric results leak investigation. A 21-year-old suspect have been arrested following the Basic Education Department lodging a complaint that matric results were being sold for about 100 rand on the internet last weekend ahead of the release of the results earlier this week. And today, the Minister of Correctional Services, Dr. Pieter Groenewald, is expected to announce the National Senior Certificate matric results for inmates for the 2024 academic year at the Johannesburg Correctional Centre, and it is an initiative that highlights correctional services' commitment to rehabilitation through education, as well as empowering offenders with the relevant skills to contribute meaningfully to the world. And just lastly, the South African Medical Association Trade Union in Mpumalanga will be marching to Riverside Government Complex to hand over a memorandum of demands, and they are demanding the employment of unemployed medical doctors in the province, and it comes after numerous attempts to address the issue with the National Department of Health. So some of the stories that I will be focusing on this morning.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ann Musa. She'll keep you updated every half hour with your news here on The Morning Brief.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So let me tell you what your weather is looking like this morning. Fortunately, no impact-based warnings from the South African Weather Service, and the almost standard fire danger warning now applying for the northwestern parts of the Western Cape, the central and eastern parts of the Northern Cape, and the southwestern parts of the Free State. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated thunder showers from the afternoon with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 25. Johannesburg, cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated thunder showers from the afternoon, 16 to 24. Mbombela will be cloudy with morning fog patches and a chance of drizzle, 17 to 24. Polokwane, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 17 to 22. Mahikeng will be cloudy at first, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 18 to 30. Bloemfontein, cloudy at first, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 16 to 32. Kimberley, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 15 to 35. Cape Town will be fine, 17 to 28. George, fine, 15 to 25. Gqeberha, fine, 16 to 25. East London, partly cloudy, 16 to 26. Durban will be cloudy with isolated showers, 19 to 27. Richards Bay will be cloudy with isolated showers, 19 to 27. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will see morning fog patches, otherwise cloudy with isolated showers with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 26.
The Oranges boys want to wrap up their group campaign on a winning note, while Stellies want to deliver a masterclass performance to triumph away from home. This is the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the joy of African football. RSB Pekane FC versus Stellenbosch FC on Sunday, 19 January at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus. proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course, We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll get a fantastic price for your car. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So because of the nature of the story involved, we will bring you two perspectives on this story this morning. On Wednesday, a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel was agreed upon by various negotiators in Doha, Qatar. The deal, which is set to begin on Sunday and will last 42 days, will see the exchange of hostages kidnapped by Hamas and Palestinians detained in Israel, Israeli prisons. Other aspects of the deal include the return of displaced Palestinians to their homes across the Gaza Strip. Let's start with Danny Mofsovitz, who is the chairperson of the Gauteng Council of the SA Jewish Board of Deputies. Good morning and thank you for your time. We're going to try and divide up the time that we have between yourself and the representative of Africa for Palestine. So let's start with this question then. It's a ceasefire for hostages deal. That's how many are characterizing it. What will it mean for Israel in terms of the return of the hostages as well as its sense of security?
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners. Firstly, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies welcomes a deal that sees the return of the remaining hostages who were taken captive by Hamas on the 7th of October 2023, when Hamas broke through the border and attacked Israel, killing over 1,200 people in the most cruel and violent way and taking 250 hostages. There are 100 hostages that remain, and these hostages have been forced to stay in tunnels underground, going on nearly 16 months in the most horrific conditions with no access to medical care or medicine. You know, the Red Cross has not been able to visit them. Testimonies from released hostages state the abuse that they were subjected to. And I think it needs to be mentioned that these hostages were taken, stolen from their lives, largely from their homes in kibbutzim, which are little farming communities, and from the Nova Music Festival, which was basically a rave or a dance party out in the forest. So many of these hostages were women and children. Of course, there's the Bibas family, who still remains captive in Gaza. Little Kfir Bibas was only 5 months old when he was taken, with his big brother Ariel, who was 4 years old at the time, and they remain captive in Gaza today. So we are really so relieved that a deal has been struck and that this horrible war and the suffering of innocent people on both sides will come to an end. We're devastated at the loss of life on both sides.
Yeah.
So with a little bit of trepidation, we look forward to a deal coming to fruition. It's a great tragedy that it's taken so long to get here. You know, Hamas started this war, and they could have ended it. They could have ended it a long time ago. The criteria from the Israeli side was always the release of the hostages and the demilitarization of Hamas, so that the atrocities of the 7th of October could not happen again.
Is there an acceptance, though, Danny, that for as long as Palestinians live with the grievance of occupation and no self-determination, there'll never really be a sustainable peace for Israel? Even if Hamas is annihilated, the grievance is passed on from generation to generation. For instance, some of the young people who have witnessed the last few months may themselves grow up with a deep sense of resentment for Israel.
Okay, so I think it's important to note that Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005 when Hamas took over governing Gaza. So they dismantled all settlements there, and Gaza has been under Hamas rule since then. There've been no Jews or Israelis left in Gaza since then. But it's the view of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies that a two-state solution is what will work. We hope that two nations can live side by side with determination, and with, of course, secure borders.
All right, thank you for that. That's Danny Mofsovitz, who is the chairperson of the Gauteng Council of the SA Jewish Board of Deputies. And listening to that is Ali Komape, who is communications manager at Africa for Palestine. The same question to you. Good morning, Ali. Same question to you. It's a ceasefire for hostages deal, but what does it mean in this instance for Palestine, for Palestinians, in terms of their sense of, I don't know, their own security and their ability to resume their lives?
Good morning to this, and good morning to your listeners. Africa of Palestine joins Palestinians and millions others across the world in welcoming this. Any iota of peace for Palestinians is welcomed. Any sense of the halt or the stopping and killing of Palestinians is welcome. However, it's regrettable that we get to this stage. We get to where 15 months later, 46,000 Palestinians later killed, over 110,000 Palestinians injured, the indiscriminate targeting of women, children, the elderly, civilians, United Nations workers, medical staff. Later, we get to this stage. It's important to know that a month later, when the attack started or the war started, the resistant fighters and Hamas specifically called for a ceasefire. For the 14 months that has been going on in Gaza, Hamas has been calling for a ceasefire. The United Nations Security Council has been calling for a ceasefire, vetoed by the United States and Israel. The United Nations General Assembly has countless resolutions on a ceasefire, ignored or dismissed by Israel and the United States. So this ceasefire is not something that Israel wanted. We must be very clear. They rejected it. Time and again, hostages were offered by Hamas to Israel in exchange of stopping the killing and the slaughtering of Palestinians, and they refused for 14 months. The ceasefire, we believe, is simply because Israel is defeated by the Palestinians' will to live and their will to fight for their homeland. There is no end in sight. Israel has been involved in these attacks for 15 months. There's no strategy. They've got no plan. They've got no goal. At some point, they were involved in a regional war, attacking Lebanon, attacking Iran. They simply do not have a plan, and this is a result of the will of Palestinians to resist and to fight.
Ali, is there a sense that the extent of the conflict and the devastation that it brought about, and the change in dynamics in neighboring countries, Lebanon, Iran, and the likes, that multi-frontal, conflict and war that Israel was involved in the last few months, is there a sense that it has permanently altered the terrain in the Middle East, such that perhaps from now on the only option really is to seize whatever momentum can be gained from the ceasefire and be leveraged for a more lasting solution, a negotiated solution?
For instance, when we say there's no stretching inside, there was a ceasefire, remember? I think four or three times that it was negotiated between the fighters in Lebanon and Israel. Israel violated those ceasefire agreements time and time again. There's several members of the Israeli military or Israeli occupation forces that have come out and say this is not sustainable. Israel simply does not have a plan. There is no military campaign that can continue like this without a plan. So we believe that, of course, the dynamics do play a role in this, but Israel simply cannot sustain this. They know it. Their partners know it. We saw in Europe, countries like France saying to Israel, you simply cannot continue doing this. And we think even dynamics in the United States with the new administration coming in have an effect on this. Israel simply cannot continue this.
All right.
It's unsustainable, and they know it.
All right. Thank you for that. Ali Komape, who is communications manager at Africa for Palestine. We did endeavor to give both of you equitable time so that you air your views on this matter. And earlier on, I was joined by Danny Mofsovitz, who is the chairperson of the Gauteng Council of the SA Jewish Board of Deputies. Let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us in the headlines, Labour and Employment Minister Nomakosazana Myth will this morning meet with management of ArcelorMittal in Vanderbijl Park in Gauteng. This after the steel producer announced it would shut its operations in Newcastle and Vanderbijl Park. Police Minister Senzo Mkunu's media briefing, which was scheduled to take place in Pretoria today, has been postponed to a date yet to be announced. He was due to focus on the completion of operations at a disused mine at Stilfontein in the northwest. And U.S. officials say they are confident that the Gaza ceasefire will take effect on Sunday. There are major disagreements in Israel's cabinet ahead of a crucial vote to ratify the ceasefire and hostage release deal. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy traffic in Pretoria along Eskia and Pathleli. It looks like something has happened around the Putco depot, so just south of the Mopani Highway on ramp to Eskia. That is where the obstruction is. Coming through from Pretoria north, it's very heavy. Bottom of Mopani Highway, backing up heavy to get into Eskia and Pathleli as well. We'll keep an eye on that one for you. Crash on Joburg's Mike 1 South near Athol Oakland, so from Sandton, the run into Melrose on your way to Joburg is quite slow. And an amazing backlog of traffic on the N3 this morning, moving from Ashburton up into Pietermaritzburg. Looks like an issue around Market Road, but there's an enormous backlog. If you're quick, you might want to come off at Ashburton and take the R103 up via Polly Shorts to avoid the worst of that. Polly Shorts should be okay before everybody else gets the idea to do that, but it is heavy. If you'd like to visualize that, we put a video up of that enormous early Friday backlog going into Pietermaritzburg on Twitter at Traffic SA. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you, Zai.
Good morning.
I see that the Yukskei Derby, is that what it's called?
Yeah, the Yukskei
Derby was rained out a little bit, but the Joburg Super Kings are swimming on.
Yes, that's exactly it. I don't know whether we're playing cricket or water polo at some point, but I just think, Thulas, I might not be doing sports, maybe a weather update, because that's how it feels. The weather reporting with the side of cricket. Yeah, heavy rain. There was no fireworks last night, but lots of rain and thunder at Wanderers Stadium. That disrupted the much-anticipated derby, but it didn't wash away the Joburg Super Kings' dominance. Their spin trio, Moeen Ali, Imran Tahir and Donovan Ferreira, rattling the Pretoria Capitals, restricting them to 138 for 8. Moeen Ali's debut in the SA20 Season 3 was an absolute showstopper. He claimed 2 wickets for just 21 runs. While the rain left fans disappointed, both teams get to share the points, keeping the Super Kings on top of the table with 10 points. Soccer, the Premier Soccer League has officially announced the details for the Nedbank Cup round of 32 matches for the 24-25 season, including crucial information on dates, venues and kick-off times. Now, the tournament will kick off on Friday, the 24th of January, and will span 6 days, wrapping up with the final match on Wednesday, the 29th of January 2025. The opening match will see the Pretoria Cullies take on Maruma Gallants at Moripe Stadium with a kick-off set for 7 p.m. Elsewhere, the Manchester United manager Ruben Amorim faced the media following his side's 3-1 win over Southampton at Old Trafford.
We have to be careful with the young kids. It was a really good job today. He has a lot to improve, but this game is in the past. We need to prepare the future in the game. In football, the life is like this. So, congratulations to him, to all the team. Enjoy tonight. It's a very good moment, and he needs to appreciate these moments. But tomorrow he's going to recover, and we have to prepare the next game.
Now, Al Hilal are ready to offer Liverpool's forward Mohamed Salah a lucrative contract if he wants to leave Europe and play in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi champions are looking for a high-profile signing to replace Neymar. Neymar's contract runs out at the end of the season, and Al Hilal can offer to make Salah one of the star names at the expanded Club World Cup in the USA in June and July. Liverpool rejected a 3.4 billion rand offer for Salah from Al Ittihad, and that was in in August 2023. And in the meantime, we've got Manchester City closing in on the signing of Eintracht Frankfurt forward Omar Mamouche. According to reports, a verbal agreement has been reached between the clubs as the transfer has not yet been completed. The 25-year-old Egypt international has scored 15 Bundesliga goals this season. Tennis action, the world number one Arina Sabalenka won a hard-fought straight sets victory over Denmark's Clara Tauson to advance to the fourth round of the Australian Open. In the men's draw, Yannick Sinner recovered from a slow start to take on the world number 173 Tristan School-Kate to keep his Australian Open title defence on track with a 4-6, 6-4, 6-1, 6-3 victory and a place in the third round. Another match saw the inspired American teenager Lerner Tin outlasting three-time Australian Open runner-up Daniel Medvedev to reach the third round in a late-night epic match. 6-3, 7-6, 6-7, 1-6, 7-6. Here's qualifier Lerner Tin.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to treat it like any other match. Belief is a big thing in succeeding and winning in general. So I always go on the court believing that, there's a chance I can win. So I wasn't trying to think of the match as anything more important than any other match I've ever played. I was just going to go out there, have fun, see what I could do.
And that's a wrap of your sport. We'll have more for you on the morning brief at the top of the hour. Catch more. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Hey, good morning to you, Ndauling. I see that you went shopping over the December holiday and you and others have made Richmond quite happy.
Morning, Thulas. Happy Friday. I wish I was part of the people that
Can't resist doing this to you each and every time. Yeah, so they're seeing increased jewelry demand during the holiday season, and that has given them a boost, yeah?
That's right, Silas. And even though they are still seeing, increased demand for jewelry, China still seems to be weighing on the luxury sector, but the plunge in sales is easing. This according to Richemond's latest numbers. In the quarter to end December, sales in the Asia-Pacific region fell 7%, largely due to an 18% decline in mainland China, Hong Kong and Macau combined. Other Asian markets, though, saw their performance improve in the quarter, with positive results in most countries, including double-digit growth in South Korea. Despite downbeat sales in China, overall, the group performed while delivering its highest quarterly growth in group sales, up 10% to 6.2 billion euros. The owner of Cartier and Van Cleef & Arpels benefited, of course, from upbeat demand for jewelry, this especially leading up to the festive season where more consumers were shopping for gifts. Now, the strongest contribution to growth came from the Americas and Europe. Investors pretty pleased with the numbers, this being evident in the share price movements. Here at home on the JSE, Richemond ended the day 14.5% higher, while gaining 16.3% on the Swiss exchange.
In mining, BHP and London Mining are seeking to increase their exposure to copper with this acquisition of, is it Philocop?
Yes, it's Philocorp.
Yeah.
Yes, so the Australian and Canadian mining giants BHP and London Mining announcing the completion of that deal. Now, Philocorp is a Canadian company that owns the Filo del Sol copper project in South America. As part of the deal, the two companies have formed a joint venture to develop two copper projects in Argentina and Chile. The acquisition and joint venture are significant developments for both companies and are expected to create new opportunities for growth and development in the copper mining sector. BHP initially paid $2 billion in cash for its share of the deal, which includes a 50% interest in the Filo del Sol copper project. London Mining, which previously owned 100% of the Jose Maria copper project, sold a 50% interest in the project to BHP for $690 million. Now, the two companies have formed a joint venture company, Vicuna Corp, which will own and operate the Filo del Sol and Jose Maria copper projects. BHP and London will each own 50% of that JV, and the JV and acquisition are subject to customary regulatory approvals, but they have received approval from Filo Corp shareholders.
All right, just the first recap of the markets for this morning, please.
So the rally we saw playing out earlier this week really running out of steam to us, with U.S. stocks falling into the red in yesterday's trading session. Pressure really being felt in the tech sector, with Apple dragging on the Nasdaq. The index was the biggest loser in that region yesterday, down 0.9%. Coming back home, the JSE ending yesterday in the green, with the all share up 0.17%, boosted by a near 0.9% rise in the industrial 25. The rand in the meantime still trading around that 1880 rand mark against the dollar, fairly stronger as the greenback steadies. Moving over to Asia, stock markets there trading mostly lower as traders react to a slew of economic data out from China.
All right, we'll talk to you a bit later. That's Ntauling Lechela. She'll be back just after 7:30 with another update here on the Morning Brief.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? With Specsavers buy one get one offer, you get great value for money. You know you can trust us with over 350 stores nationwide. Get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 rand when you purchase a comprehensive eye test and spectacle frame with lenses on your first pair. Choose from top brands like Police, Hugo, Tommy Hilfiger, Carolina Herrera and more. There really is no reason to go anywhere else. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Wekundu Wamsimbazi are playing for maximum points to finish top of Group A. But CSC strongly believe that their first position belongs to them. This is the top table clash of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the delight of African football. Simba Sports Club versus CS Constantine. This Sunday, 19 January at 3 p.m. live on SABC1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Let's take one or two calls. Let's start with Trish in Joburg. Good morning to you, Trish. You are arguing this morning that we are using the incorrect term when we call those people in Stilfontein illegal miners. Please explain. Yep.
Yes, well, I'm definitely morning to the season. Nice to be able to speak to you. I've been listening to your show for months now. And
Thank you.
What I wanted to say is every news bulletin, you are always saying that these miners are illegal. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not saying that that's not the correct term. What I am saying is that it's incredibly dehumanizing to continually label people who've been literally starving for months and call them illegal. And so what I would like to say is I believe the government is the ones that are actually doing something illegal. They have waited for months and months to bring these people up. Suddenly on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, I might be incorrect, but I heard that the government had now been able to rescue hundreds of them all in 3 days. I could be completely wrong.
Yes, over
but
200.
It sounds to me like that. Unless, but yet last year, and I've only just gone back to work, so I'm absolutely dismayed that you're still using this term, illegal, to describe them. I mean, you could use any other adjective, and we all know that the media is there to influence us to believe what they are saying. And so you choose your news very, very carefully. You choose every word very carefully. Yep. And I've been listening to you, and I chose SAFM. I'm sorry I'm sounding very dramatic, but I chose SAFM because I believe that you guys were impartial, that you had a more fair representation of the news. So
Thank you.
I believe the government is the one who's done something illegal by delaying for months rescuing these people.
Thanks, Trish.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's a fair point, Trish, and I'll tell you now that your aversion for the description illegal applying to a person, I share that 100%. It is the conduct that is illegal or allegedly illegal and unlawful. As a result, I always try to say, for instance, undocumented migrants as opposed to illegal. It's subtle nuances that say it is the conduct that is illegal, not the person. A person can never be illegal, and you're absolutely right. Words do matter. That's something for us in the industry, across the industry, to reflect on. Sibonelo, good morning. You want to talk to me about the hearings into Judge President Selby Mbenenge?
Yes, I just want to pass by the sectional titles issue before I get there. Not to get too technical, but a lot of people that are buying properties now into sectional titles don't understand what sectional titles are and how complex the ownership rights are. Which is that's all I'm going to say to that.
Yeah.
Now the issue about the Judge Mbenenge, unlucky for me, I have to listen to them every day. I will say this: we have normalized such relationships in workplaces, and whether we like it or not, such relationships exist all over in the workplaces. It is the duty of the senior person to be responsible enough to know not to engage in such relationships.
Gotcha.
Whether they happen or not, whether we normalize them or not, at the end of the day, if I'm a manager, I cannot be communicating on social media with my subordinates in such a manner.
All right.
Whether they lead me on or not and whatever,
Gotcha.
it's like a relationship with a minor. The elder is the one who's going to be in the wrong, whether the minor consented to it or not.
All right. Sibonelo in Umlazi, thank you for that input this morning. Matlakala, good morning. And Davidton, you want to respond to what Trish was saying about calling those people illegal minors. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, no, man, I don't understand Trish's reasoning because... point number one, those people, some of them are illegal immigrants in this country. That's the illegality of it. Secondly, they're mining without license, without being authorized. That's also illegal. And also, the other thing that for me I find it a problem is that, those Amazamas, most of them are harboring criminals that rape, kill, and when the police run after them, they use those mines to hide. So I don't understand Trish when she says the media and everyone else cannot call them illegal.
Right,
they are illegal. And also, we must stop blaming government where we shouldn't blame them. Who sent those people to go inside those mines? All
right, Matlakala, I've got you. I just want to take one more on this before I again make my point about what I believe Trish is appealing for. Vusi in Midrand, come in on this point, on the same point.
Yes.
Good morning,
Yes, morning, Thulasizwe. Yeah, look, who's that young I think it's
Trish.
highly undermining us. Highly undermining us. Look, a foreign, let's say, if I go to Zimbabwe, any of these countries, I'm a foreign illegal. I'm an illegal foreigner. I'm there illegally. Number two, those are criminals. Those criminals are carrying guns. You cannot talk about people who claim that you say it's inhuman, a person, people who are carrying guns which are bigger than the guns which the police and the soldiers are carrying. You want to tell us to come and say we need to be... Those people are even raping the very same white ladies in the farms and killing. So you want to tell us to come to be human. Those people are inhumane.
All right.
Those people are causing... they're undermining the state.
All right, Vusi, got you.
Tell that lady to respect us, please.
All right, Vusi in Midrand. Let me take Daki in Limpopo, also on the issue of the illegal miners. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Tulas. Tulas, a crime is committed by a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
I think that should be clear. and when you commit an act of which is illegal, you are yourself, unlawful in terms of the law. So I actually took it with a pinch of salt when you were agreeing with the assertions made by the lady. I thought you would really, put into perspective that this is really, these people are not legal in terms of, these not registered companies that are recognized by our laws to do the mining. And therefore, there's just absolutely no separation between what they are doing and what we call
and
it.
the description
so let's call
to them.
it spade by name. Yes.
Okay.
Why confuse the South Africans? We don't want that.
All right,
Thank
Daki,
you.
got you. I hear the point you are making. And thanks for that. And thanks for that engagement. We'll make time and see. I think we'll take your call a bit later on. But I do hear the point that you are making. But I understood Trish to be appealing to the professionals, the communications professionals, to be careful about the words that we use, especially in a context where, for instance, the point that you were making now about illegal mining. In this country, at this point, there is no crime that you can be charged for that says you are charged with illegal mining. The worst that you can be charged with is theft of minerals, trespassing. That's why when you hear the police saying we are going to clamp down on illegal mining, they've not defined it as a crime, criminalized it in terms of the legislators, and provided for sentencing, harsher sentencing to deal with what is clearly a problem in this country. So it's those nuances that I think Trish was trying to appeal to, at least with the professionals. That doesn't stop South Africans from forming their own view about the conduct as well as the people engaging in that kind of conduct. I think the appeal is more to the professionals. Thank you for those. We will continue to engage with you throughout the show.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very heavy backlogs on your way through towards Pietermaritzburg this morning. Broken down truck around Market Road, just before Market Road. One lane open, of course, because it's in some construction, and there's an enormous queue that's extending right back through to Ashburton Road, or the Ashburton exit at least. There may have actually been 2 trucks that are broken down there, but it is a really quite heavy backlog, Ashburton through to Pietermaritzburg. Just a little bit of traffic on the other side as well. Go to Durban around Linfield Park territory. Pretoria side, SQ and Pathlelly. It's a broken down taxi at the Putco depot. Traffic lights coming southbound from Pretoria North, very heavy. Behind that, the Montbody Highway has got nowhere to go, but back through to Hairpin Bend, a real struggle to get in off the Montbody Highway into SQ and Pathlelly this morning. Rabi and John Foster remains closed at the Henops River Bridge in Centurion, so the usual sort of backlogs just diverting and looping around alternative routes noticeable again. Joburg's Mike Weiner crashed down by Athol Oaklands from Santon heading into Melrose. That's very slow. And that collision that we reported from Cape Town still causing delays. Stellenbosch Arterial and Symphony Way. That is a major junction. A lot of traffic takes that route through Delft, and it is being held up as you approach that scene. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Be in it to win it by playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for 115 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. You heard right. Play Powerball for an estimated 86 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 29 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. eTuba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
7 minutes to 7. The Judicial Conduct Tribunal's hearings into sexual misconduct allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge, which began on Monday, continue this morning. The proceedings mark a significant moment in South African legal history, as Mbenenge is the first judge to face potential impeachment for sexual harassment. He is accused of sending sexually explicit content to a judge's secretary who works in the High Court division that he heads up in Makanda. Let's bring into the conversation Mbegezeli Benjamin, who is a research and advocacy officer of Judges Matter. Good morning to you, Mbegezeli, and thank you for your time. So we're at the end of the week. It's a good point to perhaps reflect on how the proceedings have gone over the last 4 days. What are the main takeouts for you from the proceedings of the last few days?
Good morning to us and good morning to the listeners. Well, it has really been a difficult week. I won't lie to us. It's extremely difficult and distressing to hear some of the evidence that has come out this week. So far, we've only heard from Miss Mengo, who's the complainant, and she details the interactions, especially on the WhatsApp messaging service, the exchanges that were between her and Judge Mbenenge. At some point, she did break down due to just the difficulty of the evidence. But I think the other difficulty, I think for most people and for most of us, I can say, is seeing someone who's that old, I think of that stature as well, and hearing what the exchanges were about. I think that was also quite difficult. But of course, we're still halfway point in this. We're still going to hear cross-examination, and he might also come to testify. So at this point, we can't make any judgments or any conclusions.
Yeah, and it's always important to separate between those WhatsApp exchanges that Judge Mbenenge admits to, and those that are common cause versus those that are disputed. The more explicit ones, the images that the judge's secretary alleges of his manhood that she says he sent, as well as the pornographic images, those are being disputed. He denies sending those. But just from, firstly, is that the reason why Judge Bernard Ngwepe, who's chairing the tribunal, was skeptical and initially had ruled that some of these would be heard in camera to the exclusion of the public?
Yes, that is precisely the reason. Because you'll remember, since this process started, Judge Mbenenge has denied the allegations. He also has disputed some of the evidence. And in fact, he argued very strongly against this tribunal being public at all. It was only, I think, this week that we heard that he now agrees to it being public. But yes, the ruling by Judge Ngwepe was that some of these will be in camera to protect not just the reputation of an individual, but to protect the reputation of the judiciary. Like I said, we had this conversation before, and I said we disagree with that, because it is important that this information is out there, right? Not just because in the legal community there is a culture of silence around sexual harassment, but just as a principled matter, we need to see accountability. And sometimes it is difficult, but it's for the good of the judiciary at the end.
Yeah, speaking of that then, Mbegazeli, without coming to a definitive conclusion at this point, because we can't, of whether or not he engaged, the judge engaged in sexual harassment as alleged. But given the way that, the matter has been outlined and the exchanges that have been shared, including those that are admitted to, is there some benefit that we have reaped from this process, at least up to this point, that has to do with highlighting once again what sexual harassment, unwanted sexual advances, which she alleges that these were unwanted sexual advances, but perhaps some progress in again highlighting what those look like within the legal fraternity, but also broadly across these professional spaces?
Yes, so Thulas, in 2020 and again in 2022, we did a research survey amongst magistrates. We surveyed over 230 magistrates, and we asked the question of whether they themselves have experienced sexual harassment, or whether they've seen other people experience sexual harassment. And about a third of our respondents said that they had experienced sexual harassment. Of course, it was an anonymous survey, so there was no way that we could have followed up and tried to find out if there's any credibility to the evidence. We also did a similar research study looking at complaints relating to magistrates in particular, and relating to sexual harassment, and there were so few complaints that would reach the point of being dealt with by the Magistrates Commission. So the point of this tribunal itself really is a watershed moment for our judiciary. Even if at the end the conclusion is that he is not guilty of anything, but the mere fact that we've reached this point, we think is important not only for the future and how these complaints are dealt with, but also to make people understand that this is the kind of behavior that it manifests itself, and this is how it should be dealt with.
All right. Got to thank you for your time once again. That's Mbegazeli Benjamin, who is a research and advocacy officer of Judges Matter. And that brings us to 7 a.m. Let's go on over to N. Musa, who's got the latest update in your news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, Labour Minister to meet with ArcelorMittal management and US confident Gaza ceasefire will go ahead. Good morning. Labour and Employment Minister Nomakosazana Myth will this morning meet with management of ArcelorMittal in Vanderbijl Park, Gauteng. This after the steel producer announced it would shut down its operations in Newcastle and Vanderbijl Park. The move is expected to result in 3,500 job losses and more joblessness in the steel value chain. ArcelorMittal says the imminent closure could have been avoided had the government moved quickly to address its concerns, including the country's scrap metal policy and logistics challenges. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu's media briefing, which was scheduled to take place in Pretoria today, has been postponed to a date yet to be announced. He was due to focus on the completion of operations at a disused mine at Stilfontein in the northwest. The court-ordered government-led operations have resulted in bringing 246 illegal miners to the surface. 78 bodies were also retrieved from underground. Meanwhile, police have described the process to identify the bodies of illegal miners as a mammoth task. National Police spokesperson Athlinda Mate explains how far they are in the process.
Only 2 have been identified thus far because of the challenge that the majority of them are undocumented. Some of them, it was decomposed bodies that came up mostly as bones. So that DNA process to try and identify who these individuals are is underway. We can confirm that of those that have been arrested, a total of 9 illegal miners have been hospitalized because they required further medical treatment. They are under police guard in hospital.
KwaZulu-Natal Transport and Human Settlements MEC Sibuniso Duma is today expected to inspect roads and houses that prolonged heavy rains have damaged. Several thousand homes are reported to have been damaged or destroyed. Flooding has also affected critical infrastructure, including major roads, and seriously hampered recovery and relief efforts. The department's spokesperson Ndabentle Sibia.
We've received calls, photos and videos from communities that are isolated and battling to access schools, hospitals and socio-economic centers. Prolonged rainfall has affected construction of new projects and worsened the condition of roads that are being repaired. Equally, as we move communities to new houses, a long list of residents without houses is increasing following the destruction of their houses.
The South African government and local business say they are aligned in making economic growth through partnerships and collaboration their priority. Their statement comes ahead of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland next week. The Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will lead the South African delegation to the forum. He hosted a breakfast with role players, including ministers in the economic cluster in Sandton in Johannesburg. South Africa will attend the forum under the Government of National Unity and also as president of the G20. Those heading to Davos include Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Park Stau.
The partnerships that we have with business in addressing structural reforms in our country, the extent to which we've enabled private sector participation in different elements of the infrastructure needs, the progress that we've made with regards to the electricity environment and overall energy situation, the progress that we're making with regards to transport and logistics. I think that we're able to present a message that's positive.
And finally, U.S. officials say they are confident the Gaza ceasefire will take effect on Sunday. There are major disagreements in Israel's cabinet ahead of a crucial vote to ratify the ceasefire and hostage release deal. Israel's far-right security minister says he will resign if the government approves the deal. He has described it as a reward for Hamas. Other ministers have also criticized the deal. The BBC's Sebastian Usher has more.
The general view would be that the deal will still go ahead. Certainly in the cabinet, Netanyahu will have the votes. He had 6 centrist members of a party join the coalition quite recently, and that has strengthened his position. Whereas before, what Ben-Gvir might do might bring down the government immediately. That isn't the case at the moment. Other parties have in the past also said that they would join the coalition to ensure that the government didn't collapse if a deal was at stake.
Recapping the top story, the Labour and Employment Minister Nomakosazana Nameth will this morning meet with management of ArcelorMittal in Vanderbijl Park, Gauteng. The steel producer had announced it would shut down its operations in Newcastle and Vanderbijl Park. For SAFM News, I am Ann Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
So it's heavy coming in from the northern part of Pretoria this morning along the Eskia Pathale corridor. Stationary taxi at the Putco depot a little bit earlier has just queued traffic all the way back on the Mopani Highway to the Bend section. Paul Kruger through Capital Park's quite heavy. Old Joburg Road in Centurion at Mopani very slow. I think that's probably related to the ongoing closure of Rabi and John Foster and the need to sort of divert around that junction. Rabi John Foster closed because of the flooding damage at Head-Ops River. Mike 1, crash now, a new one, northbound at Athol Oakland, so getting up from Parktown through Houghton on your way to Santon, very slow. 2 broken down trucks this morning between Ashburton and Pietermaritzburg. One's cleared, one's still there before the Market Road exit. Very heavy, long backlogs on the N3 from before Ashburton, and the R103 via Polly Shorts taking some real hassles with diverting traffic, so really badly backed up on that R103 route as well. Crash in Cape Town, Robert Sabukwe at Stellenbosch Arterial and 35th Avenue, and just watch for that sand to get on Baden-Powell at Monwa BC. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. It's soccer with the Nedbank Cup kicking off with 6 days of drama and goals. It's the David versus Goliath, and that's what the giant-killing moments are about with the Nedbank Cup. And in cricket, raid stopping play. The Joburg Super Kings still reign at the top. We'll have details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 8 minutes after 7 on this Friday. Good morning. We are into the second hour of the Morning Brief. The conversation is sparkling, as they say. I see that there's a lot of reaction that we are receiving to some of the conversations we've started, particularly around the question of whether or not to describe people who engage in illegal mining, describe them as illegal miners. This, of course, triggered by a call that we took a bit earlier on. A lot of you reacting to that and responding, and I'll take your calls and further responses. Let's engage constructively. The number to dial 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. Still to come here on the show in this hour, we'll tell you about the looming challenge between AfriForum and Solidarity on the one hand, and the President and the Minister of Basic Education on the other hand. It has to do with the coming into effect of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, BELA, and that has happened after the initial 3-month suspension of the operation of at least 2 clauses, Section 4 and Section 5 of BELA. Once that 3-month had lapsed, it has now come into effect in its entirety. We'll be speaking to AfriForum's Solidarity Movement's Werner Iman, and that is coming up over the next few minutes. Then we'll tell you that story about the Gauteng division, local division of the High Court, ruling that a body corporate of a Johannesburg apartment block can disconnect the electricity of a non-paying flat owner. We'll be speaking to a property expert who will tell us about the nuances and the details of how these sectional title and community ownership schemes work where there's non-payment, and what this judgment means for that, how that relationship plays out. And then at about 20 past thereabouts, we want to talk to the government employees medical scheme scheme. They've reached out to try and engage about the increases that GEMS members have been complaining about. You'll remember about a week ago we spoke to one of the main unions within the public service, because there's been a significant complaints coming through from GEMS members employed in the public sector. So GEMS will come through and talk to us and explain how all of this will work and what the impact is of these increases. All your regulars again locked and loaded, and as I said, you can engage me on these and other stories on 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Just last month, it was December, the season to be merry, or December, for those who know that it's not just a month, but a lifestyle. Now it's January and life is threatening watching financially. There's back to school and your own goals, and January is on everyone's lips.
Mara, you can get the relief you need right now and start the year strong with the personal loan from Nedbank with access up to 400,000 Rand. Search Nedbank Personal Loans and get a loan that offers you more. Nedbank. See money differently. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
My name is Bandi Linyawane. I'm 17 and I'm a professional cricket player. While on tour, I was battling to keep up with school, so my parents moved me to UCT Online High School. It's changed the game for me. With the ability to learn from anywhere, I can get ahead and stay ahead. Sign up at uctonlinehighschool.com. It's not too late. Applications close 20 January 2025.
Whether you're having a morning or a morning, you woke up like this or like this. Mornings love McDonald's. So choose happy and enjoy a short filter coffee for only 14.90 Rand at McDonald's. What's not to?
This January, to save money, you could cut back on the milk in your cereal, or you could switch to Outsurance and save on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS OUT to 30754. That's OUT to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So the lobby groups AfriForum and Solidarity have sent letters of demand to President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Basic Education Minister Siviwe Kwahube in relation to certain provisions of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act. The Bella bill initially was signed into law in September 2024, and certain provisions held in abeyance at least for 3 months, and that lapsed in December 2024. The groups say they seek to have the sections of the Act related to school admission and language policies declared unlawful. Let's welcome into the conversation Verna Human, who is the operational head for Solidarity, for the Solidarity Movement. Good morning to you, Verna, and thank you for your time. What in the letter are you arguing is faulty about these two provisions of Bella?
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. So we must distinguish between two things. The one is the fact that we do have objections, legal objections to the content, the substance of Section 4 and 5 of Bella. But the focus of our letter is in relation to the proclamation by the President that he implements or proclaims the Act in full. We say there's a mountain of evidence that was presented to him and before him to state that those provisions are not ready to be implemented unless there are norms and standards and other legal documents that must be drafted also through a public consultation process. So we say ultimately the decision that he made is irrational in law, and therefore that would be the basis of our challenge. In our letters, I might just add, in our letters we state that we believe that this can be rectified. So it's a letter of demand preempting a court action, and we say this can be rectified. If he does not want to meet with us and see how we can go past this impasse, we would be forced to ask him then for reasons that he would have 10 days to furnish us with. What are the reasons for his proclamation? Because he's done his decision in terms of an act, and that would be, we would want to review if he doesn't provide the reasons.
So, and thank you for clarifying that you have an issue with the contents of the two provisions, but also with the process itself. Are you saying that the president called for further consultation, and when that consultation presented what you're calling a mountain of evidence, he simply ignored that and then went to proclaim that the act will now be implemented in full? Is that the essence of your argument?
That is completely right. That is on the dot. That is what we are saying. And we are saying that he must exercise his discretion on the basis of the information provided by him. And unfortunately, we have a route that one can say is a legal route that is rational, that we've provided him with. And then there's another one which we think has been the overarching factor, and that is the political ramblings that we believe he based his decision upon.
So the issue around norms and standards, saying that the provisions that you're taking issue with cannot be implemented without norms and standards being put in place. Well, at the point at which it was said that this will now be implemented in full, we were told that the Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Kwagube, would be responsible for crafting regulations. And in fact, the sections themselves, for instance, the section around the head of department being able to say to a school that has a language policy to say you must adopt a second language as your medium of instruction. Even that section itself says that the HOD cannot do that without having put in place all the resources required, the proper planning to ensure that that is able to be implemented.
Yes, the preparation of all those documents that you've mentioned, the norm standards, what underpins that is that Section 4 and 5 is not ready to be proclaimed before those are developed. They cannot be together because then there would be a vacancy or a vacuum in law. And if you look at Section 54 of BELA, Section 54 of BELA states that there must be a date determined upon which certain section must be implemented. So even though you have an act, it is also case law. There are many legal case law that refers to that. It is a legal principle as well, that certain sections don't come into operation immediately before the environment, the legal environment is ready. And we say you cannot have both. So you cannot say we're going to develop these norms and standards and the act is in operation in full, because it would mean that it will negate the purpose of developing these documents. So that's why we stay firm on the position that 4 and 5 the operation must not be immediate. The documents must be developed, and then that would be the proper legal route to follow in relation to this.
What will you say to someone who says this objection based on technicalities of the consultation process as well as the development of norms and standards is but a proxy, Verna, for your underlying objection to the contents of the two clauses that have to do with language policy and admissions policy?
No, that would not be a correct conclusion to draw. If one refers to legal technicalities, it is merely because the facts that we have presented with necessitates us to delve deep into the legal case. And let me say very unequivocally what is our objection to Section 4 and Section 5 of BELA. We believe there's, through the Schools Act, through legal jurisprudence, through the Constitution, there's been a delicate balance struck between the powers of a school governing body and the powers of the state. We have a strong objection to the wording of Section 4 and 5 because we believe that it thwarts the balance between the school governing body towards the side of the HOD. The schools are left with less and less recourse, and that balance is tipped. And that balance has been actually confirmed in constitutional court cases from Ermelo from 2009 up until recently. So we want to maintain that what was already established in law up until BELA.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That is Verna Human, who is the operational head for the Solidarity Movement.
Defending champions Bayer Leverkusen want to stay close to the log leaders, while Borussia Mönchengladbach are navigating a path to the top 4. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Bayer Leverkusen versus Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday, 18 January at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Be in
in it to win it by playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for 115 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. You heard right. Play Powerball for an estimated 86 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 29 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
20 minutes after 7, the Government Employees Medical Scheme, GEMS, has announced contribution increases for 2025. Based on the increases, members, we are told, will pay an average of over 400 Rand more. 400 Rand more for the scheme after government subsidies. The increase will vary, of course, depending on factors such as salary scale and the number of beneficiaries a member has, among others. Let's bring into the conversation Dr. Stanley Mulwabi, who is the principal officer of the Government Employees Medical Scheme. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Anecdotally, we've picked up the unhappiness of many members who work in the public service about how steep the increases for this year have been. And of course, that has been followed by complaints by the labor movement within the public service. What, in essence, is what is behind these increases that you are introducing in 2025?
Good morning to Thulasizwe and good morning to the listeners of SAFM. The question is, what is behind? And you have used a descriptive term, steep. Immediately you use such a descriptive term, it sets the tone for the discussion. And it is unfortunately what we find that we have to be dealing with. The narrative is put in a manner as if GEMS, the Government Employees Medical Scheme, is insensitive to the economic challenges that our members specifically face, and the country at large. The truth is, we have to cater for the needs of the members for the coming year, and it's no more the coming year, for the current year as in 2025. And in doing so, we had to determine, based on their utilization in the previous year and historical utilization overall, what do we anticipate or what do we estimate will be the utilization in the coming year? And based on that, as one of the factors, a determination was made that what would be adequate for 2024 is the increase that is on average around 13.4. The 400 rands that you have also mentioned is when we average. And you must understand that you are averaging about 880,000 members, or 2.3 million beneficiaries. So that average is quite wide in its application.
So based on what you just said, is it the response then from your side that part of what has determined the size, the magnitude of the increase is the extent of usage that you've been able to observe from the previous year, and are able to project that if we are to meet all the claims based on what we saw last year, we will need an increase of this size. So in a way, members are part of the equation of why the increases are coming into play.
Yeah, and that is the correct, summation of the circumstances we find ourselves in. And then, as I indicated, it is not the only factor. Can I just mention the other factors? Yes, please do. So what happens is that on a year-to-year basis, if you think about it, let's make an assumption that the membership of the scheme does not change at all. There's no new member who comes in. What then happens is that population, the membership population, will age by a year from 2024 to 2025. And in medical schemes, when you age by a year, that actually increases your utilization by about 0.8%. So
you have age and year, and age is related to a chronic condition. So what basically means is that your risk profile increases with aging.
Right.
And as a result, your utilization increases as well. So then there's also the other element. There's something we call supplier-induced demand. And this was mentioned in the health market inquiry, which is basically where the push factor here is the utilization being increased because the healthcare providers, will apply, will request many tests as an example.
Yeah.
Whereas they could have gone away with less.
Okay.
That also is a cost element to everything. So there are many factors in essence.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Dr. Stanley Muluabi, who is the Principal Officer of the Government Employees Medical Scheme.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So let's turn to this story now. A Gauteng court has ruled that the body corporate of a Johannesburg apartment block can disconnect the electricity of a non-paying flat owner. The owner, who owed over 100,000 rand in unpaid levies and electricity charges, had previously argued that such an action would violate his constitutional rights, but the Gauteng local division of the High Court in Johannesburg has said that the body corporate could not continue to subsidize his unpaid levies and electricity charges. Let's bring into the conversation Carlo Mariani, who is a property entrepreneur and founder of The Property Coach. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time, Carlo. So how significant and how important is this judgment out of the High Court in Gauteng in defining where the responsibilities of the trustees and the body corporate start, and where the rights, that were being claimed of an owner can be subject to some kind of, limitation?
Yeah, I think it's quite an important and at the same time quite a welcome development, because as a property investor myself and as a property coach, it is quite apparent that too many sectional titles are under significant financial strain due to the partial or total lack of payment of levies and recovery of electricity. So obviously this judgment talks to electricity rather than call it levies, at least the way I have seen it in the press in the last few hours. But it is an important one and a welcome one in reestablishing or helping body corporates reestablishing the financial viability of too many body corporates that find themselves in a situation of not having many ways to collect their money, and that ultimately results in delayed maintenance or maintenance that is not being done at all, which ultimately impacts on the value of those properties.
And in terms of how sectional titles are run, sectional titles and community ownership schemes, is it the case that they pay whatever the bill comes from Eskom, they pay, and then they are going to recoup from members of the body corporate, the owners? Is that part of the challenge that has led to the financial distress of some body corporates that you describe?
Obviously, certain units within the sectional title scheme might have a prepaid arrangement. And as I talk to all sectional title owners and investors, I think that's always a recommendation. Focus on having prepaid in your units, whether you're an investor or an owner. And most body corporates are really pushing in that direction, because the recovery, the post-paid recovery of those electricity bills becomes an admin burden and also a collection burden on their side. I think it's important to also mention the very important role that CISOs as the community scheme ombud service. And that's an important organization that too many sectional title owners do not understand, other than the fact that in their levy statement, they often see that 30, 40, 50 bucks charged for Caesars. And that is a first point of departure, that if you do have any debate around the money that is being charged to you, either for electricity or for levies, do raise it with Caesars. They have a system that, and it's a free service, because we pay through our contribution on a monthly basis.
All right.
So that's always a good starting point.
All right, thank you for that. That's Carlo Mariani, who is a property entrepreneur and founder of The Property Coach. Let's check in now with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the meeting he held with ministers and senior business leaders at the union buildings in Pretoria as constructive. He says the aim of the meeting that he convened yesterday was to reiterate the government-business partnership's unwavering commitment to revitalize the national economy. The Labour and Employment Minister Nomakosazana Meth will this morning meet with management of ArcelorMittal in Vanderbijlpark, Gauteng. This after the steel producer announced it would shut down its operations in Newcastle and Vanderbijlpark. And the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has now confirmed that a Gaza ceasefire deal with Hamas has been reached. This after he accused Hamas of reneging on parts of the agreement. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Extended queues on Joburg's Mike 1 this morning from Boyson's up to Parktown. That's your normal sort of backlog, and then a crash up by Athol Oakland, so from Boyson's right through to Melrose under a bit more pressure than normal. R21 away from the airport roadworks up by the Olifantsfontein exit. There's a heavy backlog as you get up past those NGN services on your way up into Clayville territory. Crash on Eskia and Pathele, WFN Komoth. You're coming into the CBD via Marabastad. That stays heavily backed as well. The stationary trucks between Ashburton and Pietermaritzburg are being cleared. The N3's moving okay. The R103, the alternative route, is quite heavily jammed up. A lot of traffic understandably took to that road to try and beat that N3, but that road is now the heaviest, in fact, going up via Polly Shorts into Pietermaritzburg on the alternative R103. M7 into Pinetown, really heavy. St John's Avenue, extending queues right back to Hunt Stepman, so from North D, North Park territory, up over St John's Avenue Bridge. I think there's some traffic light issues just over St John's Avenue Bridge, which is causing that delay. Cape Town got a burning train this morning right in the city centre. It's underneath Nelson Mandela Boulevard on those train tracks there, just around the Strand Street exit. A lot of smoke in the city centre because of that, and there may be some onlooking, so just watch for slowing traffic after Hospital Bend as you come into the city centre. There's also been a crash on the N2 inbound at Rappenberg Road, and that's pushing a queue back as far as Bunga Avenue in Langa. Also the N7 North, some extra delays getting up from Goodwood through to Bosmansdam Road. That traffic largely being held by crash on Bosmansdam Road at the N7. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So the fixtures for the Nedbank Cup are out, and depending on how you look at it, there's plenty of opportunity for upsets or plenty of opportunity for premiership sides to really assert themselves.
Absolutely. It's a good mix of that. And I think, you know what, it's going to be 6 days of drama, goals, more drama, even upsets. So, yeah, it's David versus Goliath, and I think a lot of lower league teams are eyeing their giant killing moments in the Nedbank Cup. And you mentioned big teams like Orlando Pirates. They'll brace themselves. They've got a battle against Richards Bay. There's also the KwaZulu-Natal Derby, Royal AM taking on Milford FC, and Stellenbosch gearing up for action, while AmaZulu will take on the mighty Eagles. Now, this is the highly anticipated round of 32 fixtures for the Nedbank Cup. Action kicks off on Friday, January 24th, with the 6 days leading up to the final match, which will happen on the 29th Opening clash, you can look forward to seeing Pretoria Cullies hosting Marumo Gallants at 7 p.m. There's also Saturday's highlight, Mvoti FC taking on Baroka FC, and they'll be looking to pull off a major upset there. And elsewhere, we'll have the Manchester United manager Ruben Amorim saying that his side's 3-1 win, well, that feeling should be over against Southampton at Old Trafford, where a late Amad Diallo hat-trick rescued a win for the home team.
We have to be careful with the young kids. It was a really good job today. He has a lot to improve, but this game is in the past. We need to prepare the future in the game. In football, the life is like this. So, congratulations to him, to all the team. Enjoy tonight. It's a very good moment, and he needs to appreciate these moments. But tomorrow he's going to recover, and we have to prepare the next game.
Cricket heavy rain disrupted the much-anticipated Yuxke Derby at the Wanderers Stadium, and it didn't wash away the Joburg Super Kings' dominance. Their spin trio of Moeen Ali, Imran Tahir and Donovan Ferreira rattling the Pretoria Capitals, restricting them to 138 for 8. Moeen Ali's debut in SA20 Season 3 was an absolute showstopper. He claimed 2 wickets for just 21 runs, while the rain left fans disappointed. Both teams shared points, keeping the Super Kings on top of the log with 10 points. Tennis action, the world number 1 Arina Sabalenka won a hard-fought straight sets victory over Denmark's Clara Thorsen to advance to the 4th round. In the men's draw, Yannick Sinner recovered from a slow start to beat the number 173 Tristan Schoolkate to keep his Australian Open title defence on track. Another match saw the inspired American teenager Lerner Tin outlasting 3-time Australian Open runner-up Daniel Medvedev to reach the 3rd round. Here's Lerner Tin.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to treat it like any other match. Belief is a big thing in succeeding and winning in general. So I always go on the court believing that, there's a chance I can win. So I wasn't trying to think of the match as anything more important than any other match I've ever played. I was just going to go out there, have fun, see what I could do.
Let's go to motorsport. It's Matthias Ekstrom who secured back-to-back wins for Ford as he edged Nasser Al-Attiyah to the lead in the Dakar Rally. Yazid Al-Raji, who finished 3rd, looks set to take a maiden win in the rally standings after a great lead ahead of Toyota rival South Africa's Henk Lateghan. Here's Lateghan.
No, it's amazing. We've had a really good Dakar with some ups and downs. Some things went our way, some things didn't go our way. So Overall, I'm happy with how it went and happy with how it's going. We still have one more day to go till we get to the finish, but yeah, it's been a really good race.
And we also have the bikes category where Tosha Shurina claimed victory, while in the car categories, Yasir Sidan secured the challenger, Sarah Price got the SSV win, and Martin Masick claiming the truck title. A wrap of your sport, more top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
So, Ndauling, the ArcelorMittal South Africa imminent closure of its Longs unit, we're starting to see the ripple effects thereof, or at least we are being warned about the potential ripple effects thereof, particularly in the automotive sector.
Very true. Thulas, and according to the National Association of Automotive Component and Allied Manufacturers, the planned closure of AMSA's Newcastle plant in particular could have devastating consequences for the local auto industry. NACAM says up to 16,000 jobs could be lost in the auto component sector. This is because AMSA is the sole domestic supplier of specialized long steel grades used in the production of vehicle components, and the closure of the Newcastle plant would disrupt supply chain, leading to potential production delays and increased costs for automotive manufacturers. In the short term, up to 3,000 job losses are expected, with a further 13,000 job losses possible by the end of the year as companies adjust to increased costs and supply chain disruptions. In the long term, the impact could be even more severe, with potential losses of up to 100,000 jobs across the economy. Now, the closure of the Newcastle plant in particular would also undermine the government's efforts to promote localization in that sector, as outlined by the Automotive Production Development Program. The association's CEO, Renee Mothilau, has called on AMSA to reconsider its decision and explore alternative solutions to ensure the continued supply of specialized long steel grades in that industry.
In other industry news, what do you use if you are PPC, manufacturers of cement? What do you use to build a plant in the Western Cape?
They're going to be using cement, of course. So South Africa's biggest cement maker entering into a partnership with Chinese firm Sonoma Overseas Development Company. Through the partnership, the companies will be building a cement plant at the site of its Reebok West Works in the Western Cape. The plant, worth 3 billion rand, is expected to be more efficient and produce cement with the lowest carbon content in the country. The new plant will have a production capacity of up to 1.5 million tons of cement per year and will replace 2 existing plants in the province, which will be mothballed upon completion. So I guess they're only going to be mothballed upon completion because they're going to be using that to build the new one.
Yeah.
The PPC CEO, Matthias Cardarelli, expressed confidence that the new plant will pay off even if South Africa's economy fails to grow. The company believes that the plant's increased efficiency and low carbon emissions will enable it to recover customers and win new ones. Construction is set to begin in the second quarter of this year, and the plant is expected to be commissioned by the end of 2026.
All right, please give us another recap of the markets for this hour.
Kicking things off in Asia, markets trading mixed as traders digest stronger than expected GDP figures from China, that economy expanding 5.4% in the fourth quarter of 2024. And with that, the Shanghai index is in the green, up 0.19%. But as mentioned, trading mixed there, and we see the Japanese Nikkei losing over 0.5% this morning. Looking at Wall Street, futures in the green, recovering from yesterday's losses. Traders eyeing corporate action as earnings season gets underway. And then back at home, sentiment improving with the JSE trading in positive territory, the all share gaining 0.17% in yesterday's trading session. On the currency front, the rand remaining quite steady, trading at 18.80 to the dollar.
All right, thank you for that. And Ndauleng Lechela will be back with one more update for you just after 8:30 here on The Morning Brief.
The Oranges boys want to wrap up their group campaign on a winning note, while Stellies want to deliver a masterclass performance to triumph away from home. This is the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the joy of African football. RSB Pekane FC versus Stellenbosch FC on Sunday, 19 January at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Be in it to win it by playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for 115 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. You heard right. Play Powerball for an estimated 86 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 29 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. eTuba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. So the Kenya and the United Arab Emirates have, concluded this economic pact, this bilateral economic pact. And you are saying that it's paradigm shifting. Why is it paradigm shifting? Don't countries do this as a matter of practice?
Refreshing morning to that and jump off to the listeners. Indeed, Thulas, when you look at the paradigm shift, is beyond, the oil dependence that one will have think that the Arab Emirates will want to look at the oil industry. But this, what we call comprehensive economic partnership agreement, it is around the issues of ICT, banking, tourism, infrastructure, renewable energy. Even if we know Kenya has been pushing on their agricultural products to us, and that's how its GDP has been going up and down. And hence this meeting of President Ruto and the UAE representative, it is boosting the East Africa economy, despite what Kenya has went through in 2024.
Yeah, and I didn't know that the UAE has never really done a bilateral trade agreement with an African nation.
Absolutely, Killers. This is a new thinking. I mean, this is a new way of moving towards the continent. And remember, they've done it before with Republic of Congo. They've went to the island of the Mauritius. So you can see that they've moved beyond East Africa. They've even went into the island.
So, speaking of partnerships, the president of the Central African Republic is in Moscow, and there's some agreements that are being reached there, or a sort of pulling closer in as far as military cooperation is concerned.
Absolutely, Thulas. The meeting of President Putin and the president of CAR, Faustin Archange, Touadera, is to focus on security collaborations. But as you know, that the issues of security in the Sahel region, CAR, will always be brought into the picture. And hence this meeting was all about saying we need more of military equipment. And we know that Russia has been using its private security company, the Wagner, to be always be in those countries since 2017. And we know the US and France, Thulas, is pulling out of the Sahel. And hence you find CAR, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, they are moving towards Moscow.
On broader continental matters, Sipho, it feels like just yesterday when we as South Africa were crisscrossing in terms of our leadership, crisscrossing the continent, campaigning for Mama Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma to be the AU Commission chair. That position is up, and Raila Odinga wants an opportunity to lead.
Absolutely, Thulas. We know that it's Raila Omolo Odinga and also Yusuf of Djibouti, Richard Randrauno of Madagascar, and the one from Mauritius. There are 4 people who are contesting for this AU chairpersonship, or the CEO of the AU. Now, Raila was in Namibia yesterday trying to convince the outgoing President Mumba to say that he is here to drum support for the AU, and we know that he wants to meet with President Ramaphosa also to us. But we know in next month, that's where when they will elect the new CEO, as Musa Faki will be vacating that post that he has held for almost 2 decades now. I mean, 1 decade so far to us. So it is important when you see Raila Odinga, but others are concerned that we have more elders who are even contesting for this AU chairpersonship rather than the young people.
Having lived in Harare for a few years, Sipho, I'll tell you, the mere sight of Chikurubi maximum security prison was enough to fill me with dread, especially knowing that there's a portion and a section that has to do with the death penalty, the gallows. But something has changed there, and Zimbabwe making an announcement on it.
Absolutely, Thulas. Remember last month also we saw how Zimbabwe went on abolishing the death penalty, and now they are now, changing those gallows into a museum and a radio broadcasting studios. This has been an arrangement between the Zimbabwean Prison and Correctional Services as well as the Zimbabwean Broadcast Authority to say maybe after we have stopped these death penalties, let's create a memory, even if you say it's a bad memory, but at least they are saying facilities are ideal to set up the radio station. And that's how we see Zimbabwe moving out of this Chikurundi, the famous prison, as you have said, Thulas, where it has more than 2,000 inmates and 90% of them serving the long sentence. One of the sites will be now created into a museum and a radio studio, and they are looking at commercialization to that. It is all about money that the government is looking at.
The museum I get, I don't know if I would want to broadcast from the studios at the gallows, at the former gallows at Chikurubi Maximum Security Prison. In your historical archives, Sipho, take us back to 17 January 1961. What happened? It's one of the dark chapters of our history on the continent.
Absolutely, Thulas. You know that this was the assassination and the murder of the first elected Prime Minister of the Republic of Congo, now DRC, Patrice Emery Lumumba, who was assassinated 64 years ago, Thulas, but we know this year also marks 100 years of Lumumba's death when he was born in July the 2nd in 1925. But the murder of Lumumba, we know, Thulas, the Europeans were involved, the Belgium, the US were involved in the murder of Lumumba. So this is a very important day that we should understand that it was Maurice Ipolo, Robert Okito, as well as Patrice Lumumba, who were killed in Katanga this day. And they say some of his friends to us were involved. Moses Tombe, Seseko, they were involved in the assassination of Patrice Emery Lumumba. Hence, we know Thulas, they only brought his tooth to DRC, which has been lost. I don't know, even lately there was rumors that people have damaged the mausoleum where they put the tooth of Patrice Emery Lumumba. Asante sana Thulas, Eswatini in conversation, SAFM observing the education man.
Sipo, thank you. That's Sipo Mantula there with your Africa update.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you're on the N1 South through Midrand, it's not a bad Friday, actually. We saw a really easy Thursday afternoon flow out of Joburg, home to Pretoria. We're looking at a pretty easy Friday run through this morning. Paul Kruger through Capital Park into Pretoria. That is badly backed up, a lot heavier than normal. We've got some roadworks on the R21 up at Clayville by Olifantsfontein Road. If you're leaving the airport on way to Pretoria, it is a heavy queue, almost extending back beyond that NGen services area. Durban to Pietermaritzburg, the N3 all clear from Ashburn going through to Pietermaritzburg. There were two stationary trucks there this morning, which caused amazing backlog. So the N3 is clear, but the R103, the Polly Shorts run going up into Pietermaritzburg remains busy. I think a lot of traffic piled onto that route during the blockage on the N3. Into Pinetown, the M7, St John's Avenue Bridge territory, that remains quite slow. Cape Town this morning, we had a train burning on the railway tracks under Nelson Mandela Boulevard down by Strand Street in the CBD. That incident, I believe, has been dealt with, so no longer a smoke and visibility issue there. The N2 highway going inbound, earlier crash at Rappenberg Road is out of the way, and the N1 into town not looking too bad. Just really stop up a little bit heavier than the rest of it as you enter the CBD over the elevated freeway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Insurance are experts in what they do.
They get to understand what type of business are you doing so that they can insure you properly.
It actually validates why we're with them. If you haven't called Outsurance yet, what are you waiting for?
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Wekundu Wamsimbazi are playing for maximum points to finish top of Group A. But CSC strongly believe that their first position belongs to them. This is the top table clash of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the delight of African football. Simba Sports Club versus CS Constantine. This Sunday, 19 January at 3 p.m. live on SABC 1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Bees want to be all over the pitch and keep the 3 points on home ground.
It could be tied to Brentford. There's wishes in here. Brentford have got 5 goals at St Mary's.
Meanwhile, the Reds want to emphasize that they will never walk alone, but with victory.
Lovely ball. Gakpo. Goal! Brilliant as well, as ever, from Cody Gakpo.
This is the Premier League, striving for excellence. Experience the glittering encounter between Brentford FC and Liverpool FC on Saturday, 18 January at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC 3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
7 minutes to 8 here on the morning brief. The advocacy group Equal Education is condemning what it says is the failure of the Department of Basic Education to address the alarming dropout rate in the country. Recent statistics have revealed that just over 700,000 of the 1.2 million learners who began grade 1 in 2013 enrolled as full-time grade 12 candidates in 2024. In response, the department has said these figures are not based solely on learners dropping out. Let's speak now to Colin Waddle, who is the communications lead at Zero Dropout. Good morning, and thank you for your time. So, I don't know about you, I did not hear, I must say, this talk of quote-unquote the real metric pass rate, as we've grown accustomed to over the years. Were you surprised by that?
I think one of the reasons that
taken place is that, we've obviously had a change in government, and, the particular party that was the loudest when speaking of, quote, the real, or rather the political pass rate, is now, a part of the government, and essentially I think that opportunity has given them, I think, deeper insight into the matric results and how essentially that data is collected and represented. And I'm hoping that it is essentially the beginning of a more mature and nuanced conversation that we'll have in future years about the matric results, and essentially how we can address the underlying issues to address things such that you mentioned, such as the dropout rate in future.
Yeah, so, the Basic Education Minister, Siviwe Kwagube, did allude almost in passing to that factor, and saying that it is not correct to characterize the situation as, these pupils have been lost to the system. And she gave an account. Some go into the IEB stream, others go the route of being part-time, candidates in terms of writing the exam. Others are a few grades behind, etc., and saying that we need to understand it more than simply saying that these are lost to the system. Does that help with the conversation that you are hoping we can have around this matter?
Yes, I think there's definitely elements of that need to be unpacked and understood. When it comes to essentially, the matric results, what is often reported is, the National Senior Certificate pass rate, which is how many matriculants or learners sat and registered for that exam and then wrote it at the end of the year. There's also, the IEB exam that takes place in the same year and reported at the same time. What is of interest to us as a campaign in particular is what's known as the throughput, or in some spaces it's known as the survival rate. And that speaks to how many learners, begin grade 1 or grade R and eventually reach matric. The Department of Education calculates the throughput rate from grade 10 to 12, which is something we, continue to engage and debate them about. But when it comes to the aspect of throughput, our big concern is that while we had an increase in the National Senior Certificate pass rate this year, there is what appears to have been a 1.1% decrease in the throughput rate. And for us, that seems like a worrying regression from last and previous years, and something that we definitely will continue to engage the department to essentially determine what can be done to ensure that, this essential regression is a one-time thing and not the beginning of an unfortunate trend.
Yeah. In fact, one factor that I think I forgot to mention that the minister mentioned is the option to go the route of further education and training, and I think that's at around grade 10. That's she said that's one of the options that some pupils do take. But in your understanding, what are some of the reasons why we see pupils dropping out between grade 1 and grade 12, and at which points within that trajectory do we lose the most pupils?
Well, we probably lose the most learners. Through research, it suggests at about grade 6 to 7, and when that transition happens from essentially primary school to high school, and then again we have a bottleneck that tends to happen at grade 10, and even the DG this week remarked that there essentially has been high repetition, and particularly at a grade 10 level. And what this can often do is learners end up stuck in cycles of repetition, becoming too old for their grade, and disengage from the subject matter, and also in classrooms where they aren't the resources to essentially catch them up and help them progress to matric. And also bearing in mind that, at grade 10, typically a lot, that's age 16 under typical scenarios. So that's also when some learners are expected to take on more responsibilities at home and within their communities. And, whether that's being, taking care of family members or being forced to seek additional employment to support their family. And of course, other aspects such as antisocial behavior, such as crime and gangsterism, tends to, really flare up in a young person's life at about that age. So there are numerous push and pull factors that seem to really intensify in that kind of adolescent phase. And these are one of the reasons we often call for not just the real-time tracking of how learners are progressing, but also looking at early warning systems, so monitoring their behavior, monitoring their attendance, and when these things begin to slip, making sure that the psychosocial support that's supposed to be in place as per the Department of Basic Education and Social Development's policies are actually accessible and kick into gear and help these learners and keep them engaged and on track.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Colin Waddle, who is the communications lead at Zero Dropout campaign of Equal Education. All right. And that brings us to 8 a.m. Let's check in now with N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, Ramaphosa meets with ministers and senior business leaders, and DA calls for an inquiry into the events at Buffelsfontein mine. Good morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the meeting he held with ministers and senior business leaders at the Union Buildings in Pretoria as constructive. He says the aim of the meeting that he convened yesterday was to reiterate the government-business partnership's unwavering commitment to revitalize the national economy. The partnership is seeking to accelerate the necessary reforms to grow the economy. Tsepo Mongai reports.
In a statement, the presidency says partners acknowledged that while considerable progress has been made, there's a need to accelerate efforts to deliver on the ambitious plans. Government is rolling out phase 2 of structural reforms called Operation Vulindlela in the areas of energy, transport, crime prevention and youth employment.
The Labour and Employment Minister Nomakosazana Meth will this morning meet with management of ArcelorMittal in Vanderbijl Park, Gauteng. This after the steel producer announced it would shut down its operations in Newcastle and Vanderbijl Park. The move is expected to result in 3,500 job losses and more joblessness in the steel value chain. ArcelorMittal says the imminent closure could have been avoided had the government moved quickly to address its concerns, including the country's scrap metal policy and logistics challenges. The Democratic Alliance has called on government to immediately establish an inquiry into the illegal mining crisis at a disused mine in Stilfontein in the northwest. This comes as court-ordered government-led rescue operations are concluded after all the illegal miners were reported to have been brought to the surface. This week, a total of 246 illegal miners were brought to the surface and 78 bodies retrieved. Since the beginning of the police's Valamgoti operations at the disused mine, 1,907 illegal miners had been brought to the surface and 87 bodies retrieved. DA MP and spokesperson on mineral and petroleum resources, James Lorimer.
We think that the people who were involved, the SAPs and the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, should have their conduct examined because this is a disaster. We've got 78 people dead so far. So we want to see whether everybody had been doing their job as they were supposed to have done. And we want to be able to prevent a similar occurrence in the future. So that's why we need a full investigation. And obviously we can't have SAPs and the department investigate themselves. And that's why we think the most appropriate vehicle for this would be an independent commission of inquiry.
KwaZulu-Natal Transport and Human Settlements MEC Siboniso Duma is today expected to inspect roads and houses that prolonged heavy rains have damaged. Several thousand homes are reported to have been damaged or destroyed. Flooding has also affected critical infrastructure, including major roads, and seriously hampered recovery and relief efforts. The department spokesperson Ndabentle Sibiya.
We've received calls, photos and videos from communities that are isolated and battling to access schools, hospitals and socio-economic centers. Prolonged rainfall has affected construction of new projects and worsened the condition of roads that are being repaired. Equally, as we move communities to new houses, a long list of residents without houses is increasing following the destruction of their houses.
And finally, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has now confirmed that a Gaza ceasefire deal with Hamas has been reached. This after he accused Hamas of reneging on parts of the agreement. This called into question earlier confirmation from the mediators that a deal had been reached. Shawan Bryce Peace reports.
The Israeli Security Cabinet could meet later Friday to sign off on the deal before it's approved by the government. That would allow Phase 1 to start as expected on Sunday, a process that could see an immediate halt to all fighting and begin the staggered release of Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners, the pullback of Israeli troops to the outskirts of Gaza, and a surge in humanitarian aid. It would also allow hundreds of thousands of Palestinians displaced in Gaza to return to the remains of their homes.
Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the meeting he held with ministers and senior business leaders at the Union Buildings in Pretoria as constructive. He says the aim of the meeting that he convened yesterday was to reiterate the government-business partnership's unwavering commitment to revitalize the national economy. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
This January, you could, to save money, you could carpool with your not-so-friendly neighbor, or you could switch to Outsurance and save on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Quite heavy getting through the Crown interchange this morning. This is on the Mike 1 and M2 routes, just backlogging from Boysons, from Joslove into the Crown and up through Braamfontein. The R21 has roadworks up by Olifantsfontein. That's quite a heavy queue if you're on your way to Pretoria. And down between Fockville and the Potch. There's been a crash there on the N12. That is quite a heavy delay, pretty much halfway between Fockville and Potch, or halfway between Fockville and the R54, just north of Potch is where you will sit in some traffic. Van Rienen's all open, and well, a bit of backlog perhaps still clearing through the N3, although it opened about 11:30 last night. It took forever for the traffic to clear through, and there is a little bit of pressure on Van Rienen, just going up towards the village area. R103 into Pietermaritzburg from the Ashburton side via Polly Shorts. That's been heavy. That's all cleared up this morning. That's starting to flow nicely now. Cape Town, sand on Baden Powell at both Monwood BC and at Coastal Park, so drive carefully, please. And there's just been a police incident. We understand it's a fatal shooting. Jan van Riebeek by Epping Avenue in that Beaconvale area. So if you're on your way up 35th Avenue onto Jan van Riebeek into Parow, there are some delays there. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's soccer action with Mamelodi Sundowns facing a crunch in their Champions League showdown with AS FAR. We also have the Nedbank Cup kicking off the David versus Goliath, where all the teams are eyeing the giant killing moments. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays,
Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, South Africa. We are into the third hour of the morning brief. It's good to be in your company on this Friday morning. Well, let me start here. A bit of admin and a bit of, some chores that I've got to take care of. In the last interview, I was speaking to Colin Waddle, and I know that the smart money in broadcasting says if you make a mistake, move on from it. But, sometimes it's just so glaring. Colin Waddle, communications lead at Zero Dropout. I said he was from the Zero Dropout campaign of equal education. Well, the correct position is Zero Dropout is Zero Dropout and equal education is equal education. So I thought it's glaring enough for me to actually come back to you and settle that with you. The second issue, and I'm going to expose Mdu here, one of our producers, because since Monday, Mdu has been meant to remind me to mention on air that the caller that we took on Monday, who called for, and now he says, oh, in my ear. On Monday, we got a call from a listener in Mpumalanga who was saying that they were battling to have a child registered for school. I take it it's higher education because the documents, the ID was being questioned at Home Affairs because of this issue of identity theft and identity fraud. And we had said to that caller to hold on so we can get the number and see if anyone would be able to assist them. Well, as it turned out, the caller did not hold on and we lost that caller without having gotten the details. So if anyone is listening and knows the caller that I'm talking about, and I know it's a few days ago, but I'm pretty sure people close to him will know that he must call us back or send us a WhatsApp message, because the Public Protector's Office wants to jump in on that situation and wants to be able to assist them in that situation. So those two items I thought I should just take care of. Lots of conversations, of course, on the go. The conversation around the government employees medical scheme resonating with a lot of you, but also the issues around illegal mining and that the use of the phrase illegal miners to describe those who undertake the unlicensed and illegal mining in areas such as Stilfontein. I'll take your calls on all of these issues and others. A bit later on in this hour, we are scheduled to speak to the leadership of Ithala in KwaZulu-Natal. From as early as when the troubles started at VBS Bank, I remember friends of mine, and it's anecdotal, so it's not based on anything scientific or anything proven, but very early on, you started hearing friends of mine in KZN saying, wait till you see the situation at Ithala. Well, there's some troubling developments around Ithala that have to do with moves to try and get it into liquidation. We will hear the perspective of the leadership of Ithala Bank, and that's coming up just before we leave the show this morning. Your calls to the number 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes, please send them to 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1998, 500 grams of sugar cost about 3 Rand. Now, it's about 20 Rand. There's nothing sweet about how the cost of living has gone up. But even in times like these, Outsurance is committed to saving you money on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 for a quick and easy way to save. Let's hear what Rosemary has to say about the saving on her 2019 Ford Figo.
I phoned into Outsurance to get a quote. They were super efficient, super quick. I'm saving 421 Rand a month. I'll stick my neck out and tell them to phone Outsurance.
Enjoy life-saving services like Help It Out with 24/7 access to panic assistance, roadside assistance, and home assistance with just a tap on the app. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. Limits apply. T's and C's online.
The Bees want to be all over the pitch and keep the 3 points on home ground.
It could be 5 to Brentford. There's Wishers in here. Brentford have got 5 goals at St Mary's.
Meanwhile, the Reds want to emphasize that they will never walk alone, but with victory.
Lovely ball. Gakpo. Goal! Brilliant as well, as ever, from Cody Gakpo.
This is the Premier League. striving for excellence. Experience the glittering encounter between Brentford FC and Liverpool FC on Saturday 18 January at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Whether you're having a morning or a morning, you woke up like this or like this. Mornings love McDonald's. So, choose happy and enjoy a short filter coffee for only R14.90 at McDonald's. What's not to?
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let me start with two quick voice notes before I go to the calls. The first one has to do with matric results, as well as what was said by Trish a bit earlier on, concerned about the use of the term illegal minors.
Good morning to us. The TA did raise that issue of the real matric results. I read about this this morning on the News 24. Please check that story on News 24 to us. Thanks from Andile in Willowvale, Eastern Cape.
Andile, thank you for that. I did not see that story. I will look out for it. What I was alluding to, I guess, is what the Minister of Basic Education, who is from the DA, Siviwe Kwagube, was saying, giving explanations as to where the learners are lost along the line of schooling. But thank you for pointing out. I will look out for the political party statement from the DA.
Morning, South Africa. Morning, TS. Look, Trish might have a point, but when we start sugarcoating things, if you're calling a spade, it is what it is. If a person is in the country undocumented and without papers, is an illegal. If you do business which it's not within the boundaries of the law, it's illegal, irrespective of who does it. So more or less, those are undocumented and engaging in a business which is not authorized. Those are illegal immigrants. We can sugarcoat it the way we want it. Major from Guatemala.
Thank you, Major. And I hear the point you are making, and I'm willing to concede and accept that position, but I guess I still maintain that words do matter. Let me give you an example. There used to be a situation where in our courts, a child born out of wedlock used to be called an illegitimate child, until the Constitutional Court and others recognize that actually this is problematic. You've got to use the right word to describe what the position of this child is. Same applies to this issue of undocumented migrant, without seeking to describe the person themselves as being unlawful, but their conduct you can not sugarcoat and say actually your conduct is unlawful. But I think I'll leave it there. I acknowledge everything that you have said on this. Let me take a call from Janusz in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Janusz. You want to talk to me about student fees?
That's right. Yes, thank you. Yesterday there was an interview on the KETI program, and there was a gentleman from the Wits University representing some of the section, and we actually learned. He was talking about student fee, but we learned that this university, the entrance of the many students would like to enter there, about 118,000 for the 6,000 position only for the first year. So there's huge, difference. So actually, I would like to know how they selected this, who's going to enter, who no. We know that for instance, the metric documents are important, and the percentage, whatever they pass, that's important. But imagine that, for instance, the 10,000 of the same percentage, the same level they pass, and only 6 can get there. So how they do it? Do they do it on race? Do they do it on religion? Political, economical connection?
Yeah.
Can you find out, please? Because it's a question which we
Good
should
point.
know.
Thank you for that, Janusz. I think we'll have that conversation closer to the start of the higher education academic year. And Janusz, I know what you're talking about. Great work by the team at News 24, comparing between the applications received by each institution and the places that are on offer. University of Joburg, for example, 693,990 applications for just 10,500 places that they have, etc., etc. So it's an important conversation. We will pick it up at a future date. Vuyelwa in Parktown, good morning. You want to talk about education this morning?
Yes, thank you so much, Thulas and your team there and the listeners of SAFM. I find it very concerning that we, as much as we are so blessed with the class of 2024, but my concern is I had a lot of them. They want to do medicine, which is good. But I didn't pick up anyone who's talking about agriculture, which is a problem that we have in South Africa and the continent. But more so, there's other problems, once you're qualified. And have you ever come across when you're told that you're overqualified? And, some of us came home armed with Oxford qualifications, Harvard, and where we've been, Cardiff. And then you're told, if you could say your CV, Yes.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, so my problem is that we're not so much into, agriculture and other fields that can help the economy of the country and the continent. We're busy tackling right now with this whole mining story and whatever. Some of those people that come into this country, they don't even have metrics. That I know. I can actually, stand for that. They don't. The highly educated people in those countries are in their countries working and doing something. Yes. Yeah. So my concern is that, yes, they are going to do all this, go all this process. Some of us used to depend by oil in cafes, trying to, raise money for you. Yeah. Yes. All but right. At the end of the day, when you come back and you have got all those qualifications, then you are told, if you go to CV.
All right, got you. Vuyelwa, thank you. Vuyelwa in Parktown, I get the point you're making about diversifying in terms of the areas of focus and channeling of young people when they come out of matric, so that not everyone is rushing for a university degree, but actually other technical skills are emphasized. Skis. Bond in Gqeberha, good morning. You want to talk to me about AfriForum and the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act? Yes.
Yes. Good morning to us. Before I go there, to make it easier about the description of illegal minors, just call them alleged illegal minors because of the presumption of the principle of presumption of innocence until proven guilty. Just say alleged illegal minors. Finish. Yeah. Let's go to this one. Just to simplify things, but this is the reason why I'm phoning all the time. The process of passing laws. There are three organs of states. There's the legislature, there's the executive, and there's the judiciary. Two of the organs are involved. The legislature, that is the parliament, is the NA and NCOP. It deals with a bill, and before it passes it, it goes through public participation where any concerns are voiced out there. You understand? Yeah. Once it goes to parliament, it's passed, it goes to the executive, who's represented by the president, who may elect to refer it back to parliament or to constitutional court or sign it. In this case, he suspended the implementation of two of the clauses for 3 months. No one objected to the 3 months to say it's inadequate. It was taken to a clearinghouse, which is not even provided for by the constitution or the law. The clearinghouse approved it and it was implemented. So really, all the steps that the parliament and the president took were rational. There is no requirement for over-rationalization. So this action is just clutching at legal straws. There is no way that can succeed. Gotcha. And I'm challenging listeners of SAFM, if you can win, take my pinky and cut it, my left little finger. I'm challenging. Are you sure? Are you sure? I'm very sure. Whenever I find me, cut my left finger.
You have a right to be free from violence from all sources. Yes. So based on your, is it Section 12? Your Section 12, right? We will not be doing that to you.
No, I know. They might like me say, okay, we'll spare you this time. They won't cut.
Thank you, Bond in Kavecha there. Let's speak to Sbo in Durban. Good morning to you, Sbo. You want to talk about illegal miners? Sbo, good morning. Can you hear me?
Thulasizwe, are you talking to Sbo?
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. Firstly, I was just so touched by Chris making that call because it's exactly the thing that I wanted to raise yesterday already. And in fact, I had this discussion with a friend of mine. The problem with calling them illegal miners, and the media has been leading with this consistently, and that's what bothers me about it. The mainstream media, including SABC, is that it achieves two things, Thulasizwe. The first is that it dehumanizes these people. It's okay, they can die, they're illegal miners anyway. That's the one thing, and this is what we are seeing. Even the callers that are making submissions on your program and saying these are just illegals. So it makes it easy and it makes it acceptable for them to die. The government said the other day we're going to smoke them out. That was incredulous. But because they are illegal miners, no one cares. That's the first thing. The second thing is that it then absolves government of blame. It enables government to... government leads with this whole thing that it's illegal miners. Therefore, it doesn't matter that we were negligent in our duty. Why are they in the country in the first place? Home Affairs and strengthening of borders. Secondly, Thulasizwe, even convicted prisoners have rights in this country.
Let's leave it there.
These are people who have conducted an illegal act of some sort. They have rights. It's been proven. You can't just go in there and kill them and say, they eat. They get given 3 meals a day. They get exercise and all these things.
All right, so thank you. Yeah, let's leave it there for this moment. So we can't just use illegal miners and have a free-for-all. That they could 78 have died. Gotcha.
But thank you, Thulasizwe.
Sbo in Durban there, emphasizing, I guess, the issue of dignity, that it continues to matter no matter the allegation of unlawful conduct on your part. Atata in Dobsonville, you also want to come in on the same issue. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. It's actually Atata.
Atata.
Yes. Thula, I just want to comment on your assertion there, saying there's no such thing, or it's incorrect to call illegal immigrants. Well, I'm going to put it that way. I don't see how you can compare illegal immigrant as a description of a human a person and also an illegitimate child, and saying, the Constitution said it's illegal to call them illegitimate. That was correct. And actually, I support that because it's not a child's fault in the first place to become an illegitimate child. But for the illegal immigrants, they made a choice to become illegal. You make a choice to do the right thing, and you also make a choice to do the wrong thing. If they don't have the right documents to be anywhere in any country for that matter, they are illegal together with their conduct. So I would like to challenge anyone, even these organizations that think that human rights are superior to everything. They cannot take that stand, because now you're discounting the legality of doing the right thing in any country. If you are here illegal or in any country, you are an illegal immigrant and you should be treated as such.
Okay,
that is my comment.
Look, I will take the point you are making, that the agency between a child, in the example that I was using, and a person who allegedly decided to engage in illegal activity. I will take that point, that perhaps the parallels don't really square up in the way that maybe I conceive them. All right, thank you for that, Atata. I've got to thank you for that this morning. Let me see who's also still holding. Sia in Durban, good morning to you. You also want to weigh in on Stilfontein?
Yes, thank you, Tula. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I agree with the lady who just, the previous speaker. It's incorrect to us that a murderer, which we call because he has committed an act of murder, and then we regard the person a murderer based on the actions. Okay, and so we cannot tiptoe around wrongdoing and bad actions that is badly influencing the nation. We've got young people who are looking up to some of these actions. And so if we do not clearly spell it out for what it is and call it out for what it is, we'll have a nation that has no backbone, because we are constantly shifting the basis and the foundation of society. Society is built. In the near future, we can't call a criminal because of what some feelings, someone is going to feel bad. Look at the East, at the West right now. It's in a mess. Things are falling apart in Europe, in the USA, because of why they're trying to be so woke and being forward and liberal. So we don't call things that have built societies and civilization for ages.
Yeah.
If we shift such things and we don't call it for what it is, we will have no country. Everyone will just do as they please, because you know what? We have to nurse some feelings. We cannot do that. We go to school. I went to school. I operate in the same sector. I have to attain a qualification, a license, so that I can operate in that space. So someone who comes in illegally and operate illegally in that space. Now so it was useless for me spending time, taking my time and studying and immersing myself in working hard. So someone will just walk in because we have to be nice and nice. No, it cannot be. We call it for what it is. Illegal.
All right.
It's illegal.
Sia, thank you for that. And I must say, I really appreciate the way that you've engaged with this topic. It's amazing how Trish, with that comment that she made, has gotten us down this path of engaging one another on the importance of the words that we use. I've got to thank you for that, Sia. Sia in Durban there. And I do take the point. Absolutely. The parallels that I was drawing between the previous use of words such as illegitimate child to describe a child born out of wedlock, and the use of illegal minor. Perhaps the parallels, as I was saying to one of the callers, don't really square up as well as they should. But I guess I come back to that point that what Bond was saying, for example, that if you say alleged illegal minors, that's perhaps a way of describing it, because there's still that element of it's still an allegation that they are illegal minors, that they engaged in this illegal activity. And I take the point that you make that if we go down that path, we may end up with a situation where even after conviction, it's still difficult to call a person a murderer, a rapist, etc. I've taken the points that you've made. It's been quite an interesting conversation that was triggered by Trish just making one suggestion to media practitioners. At 8:30, let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us in the headlines, the Hawks have confirmed the arrest of a 21-year-old suspect in the online leakage of matric results. The Basic Education Department lodged a complaint that matric results were being sold for 100 Rand on the internet last weekend. President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the meeting he held with ministers and senior business leaders at the Union Buildings in Pretoria as constructive. He says the aim of the meeting that he convened yesterday was to reiterate the government-business partnership's unwavering commitment to revitalize the national economy. And the ANC's first Deputy Secretary-General, Nomvula Mokonyane, says legal processes must start to ensure lasting peace in the Middle East. This after the US, Qatar and Egypt brokered a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Heads up, if you're moving between Potchefstroom and Joburg, there's been quite a big crash. It is just west of Fockville, if you like, just south of Fockville, halfway really between sort of Fockville and Potch, but on the Gauteng side of the border. And there's quite a lengthy queue to work through in both directions through there. Moving away from the airport at Joburg, on your way to Pretoria, quite heavy. There's roadworks, double lane closure on the R21 up by Olifantsfontein. That traffic back past Engen and back down towards the Bobsfontein exit. Make sure you're aware of that if you're on your way to Pretoria, Tembisa or Clayville areas. Durban easing up nicely. Both the N3 and R103 routes up through Ashburton to Pietermaritzburg, which were quite badly backed up earlier this morning due to troubles on the N3 and then a spillover onto the R103. Thankfully, that's all got through and looking clear. Cape Town, major problems on the trains now. We reported earlier there was a train burning or some carriages burning on the train tracks underneath Nelson Mandela Boulevard in the city centre. Now, as a result of that, train services on the Southern Line, the Northern Line, and the trains that go Cape Town via Maitland, Belleville and Kryfontein have been temporarily suspended. So most of the Metro Rail network across Cape Town unable to run as a result of that earlier train fire incident. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So, CAF Champions League drama at Loftus under focus. But before you tell me all about it, how do you pronounce this team's name? It looks on paper as far.
Yeah, it is. As
but
far.
I don't imagine that's how it's pronounced.
Just as far.
Uh-huh.
Rabat. That's it. Potato.
Keep them as far away as possible
Oh,
from
please.
a
Yes.
win against Sundowns.
Absolutely. That's exactly what the playbook needs to read to us when Miguel Cardoso and his team, Mamelodi Sundowns, face the team from Morocco. AS FAR Rabat, their final CAF Champions League group stage clash at Loftus Versfeld. Sundowns sit second in Group B. They need just a draw to secure a spot in the quarterfinals, while the Morocco Giants, well, they have already qualified and are leading the group with 9 points. Mamelodi Sundowns has had a mixed run of form recently, scraping a 2-1 win against Manyema Union last week after a narrow defeat to Raja Casablanca. Adding to the pressure, AS FAR, star-studded team, and their defensive prowess are definitely something that coach will be worried about. Kickoff is at 6 p.m. That's on Sunday, and fans are hoping Sundowns, as well as coach Miguel Cardoso, can work his Champions League magic to keep South Africa's hopes alive, and you can catch it live on SABC Sport. More soccer, Polokwane City head coach Puti Mohafe emphasizes that his team will no longer be intimidated by their Betway Premiership rivals as they prepare to face SuperSport United at the Lucas Masterpieces Moripa Stadium tonight at 7:30 p.m. Rise and Shine have made a strong start this season, winning 6 of their first 13 matches, positioning themselves as serious contenders for a CAF berth. Now, the Premier Soccer League has revealed the fixtures for the Nedbank Cup's highly anticipated round of 32. The action kicks off on Friday, the 24th of January, with 6 days of action-packed matches leading up to the final match on the 29th of January. The opening clash sees Pretoria Cullies hosting Maruma Gallants at 7 p.m. And then Saturday's highlight is Umvoti FC taking on Baroka FC, with lower league teams eager to pull off the major upsets. Defending champions Orlando Pirates face Richards Bay, that's on Sunday, and the KwaZulu-Natal derby on Monday pits Royal AM against Milford FC, while Sekhukhune United will clash with Cape Town City. On to rugby, and Zane Davids will reach a well-deserved 50th tournament cap in Australia next weekend when the 27-year-old was named in the Springbok 7 squad for the HSBC Sevens Perth, taking place from the 24th to the 26th of January. Blitzbok head coach Philip Snyman, himself a member of an illustrious group of players with 50 or more World Series tournament, named the durable forward in a squad that showed 3 changes from the one that conquered at the HSBC Sevens Cape Town last month. Davids, who co-captained the side alongside with Impi Visser at DHL Stadium in December, will share the same duties with his fellow prop again. Ryan Oosthuizen, Ronald Brown and Selvin Davids are back in the squad for the trip down under. And staying down under, the world number 1, Arina Sabalenka, is through. She took down Denmark's Clara Tauson. And we also have more action with the likes of Carlos Alcaraz. He is through. He took down Nuno Borges of Portugal, as well as other action sees Naomi Osaka on the moment. She's on court, and looking forward to seeing as well Novak Djokovic play later today on the Rod Laver Arena. He'll be taking Thomas Mahash, and Coco Gauff will face off against Leila Fernandez on the Margaret Court Arena. And finally, motorsport. Matthias Ekstrom secured back-to-back stage wins for Ford. He edged Nasser Al-Attiyah to the lead in the Dakar Rally. Yazid Al-Raji, who finished third, looks set to take a maiden win in the rally standings after a great lead ahead of Toyota rival South Africa's Henk Latergan. Here's Latergan.
No, it's amazing. We've had a really good Dakar with some ups and downs. Some things went our way, some things didn't go our way. So overall I'm happy with how it went and happy with how it's going. We still have one more day to go till we get to the finish, but yeah, it's been a really good race.
We'll have more sport on SAFM at around 12:30 with John Hedeka. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again, Ndauling. Tell me a bit about why the Prudential Authority, this is the Reserve Bank, right? Why are they applying to place Ithala under liquidation?
So the PA is stating that Ithala is technically and legally insolvent, and so it's trying to protect the interests of Ithala's 257,000 depositors. Ithala, which is owned by the KwaZulu-Natal provincial government, says that it failed, rather the PA says that it failed to provide the sufficient capital commitments or secure a guarantee over its deposits from its shareholders. Now, the agency's exemption to operate as a bank-like institution had lapsed in December 2023. As a result, depositors' accounts will be closed to allow for pending court processes. In the meantime, the National Treasury has assured depositors that their funds will be guaranteed by the government, subject to certain technical work being completed. Ithala, established in 1958, had been struggling to meet regulatory requirements and had its license suspended by the Financial Sector Conduct Authority in August 2023. The agency had been operating under an exemption granted by the Finance Minister, which allowed it to receive deposits on an interim basis. Now, the liquidation application marks the end of Ithala's ambitions to become a fully fledged bank. Depositors have been advised to make alternative banking arrangements while the government works to secure their funds. In a joint statement, National Treasury and the Ministry of Finance said they were working closely with the Prudential Authority to ensure an orderly process that protects depositors' interests.
So speaking of those companies that carry the tag SOC, state-owned company, there are moves now, or perhaps exploratory at this point. Government is looking at listing SOCs on the JSE.
That's right. And the move aims to attract investment and foster growth. This, according to Minister in the Presidency, Marupeni Ramokgopa. She says they're in the process of making SOCs more market-orientated, and that process, she says, has already begun. The government has been providing bailouts to these entities, which have faced governance issues and financial struggles. But in recent times, the National Treasury has taken a harder stance on funding them, with government suggesting privatizing non-core entities. But this process has yet to gain momentum. And now, to address this, the government proposed amendments to its public-private partnership laws last year. These changes aim to encourage private investment in state infrastructure and projects. Now, once the law is finalized, it will pave the way for state-owned companies to be listed on the JSE rather than solely being owned and controlled by the government. Ramokgopa further said by listing on the JSE, SOCs can gain access to capital, increase transparency, and improve their financial management. At the moment, you'll notice that SOEs like Eskom, like Ithala as well, they only have debt instruments listed on the JSE, and this move is looking to have these companies listed as stocks on the equity exchange. This move is also expected to have a positive impact on the economy, Ramokgopa says, and attract foreign investment.
Yeah, that would be an interesting development to observe. What kind of a day are we looking at this Friday on the markets?
So local markets could be in for a mixed day of trade, with traders digesting Chinese economic data. In terms of local company news, investors will wake up to updates from Minor Merafe Resources and Southern Sun. Looking at currency markets, trade quite muted, with investors digesting data from the US and China. The rand sitting at 18.79 to the dollar this hour. Over in Wall Street, traders eyeing earnings reports for a closer look at how corporate America performed in the last quarter of 2024. While that takes center stage, sentiment has recovered, with futures in the green. And then over in Asia, trade quite choppy, with indices volatile. Those stocks looking to end today's session mixed.
All right, thank you for that. Have a great weekend. That's Ndauling Lechela. She's kept you updated on all things to do with the economy, business, as well as the markets over the last 3 hours here on the Morning Brief.
Abafana West 10 and the Rockets are both looking for a decent spot in the top half. They are all confident they will walk away from the battlefield with jubilance. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch the great passion and drama of Mzansi's beautiful game. Golden Arrows FC takes on TS Galaxy FC on Saturday, 18 January, live on SABC 1 at 2:30 p.m. and SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
I feel great, I feel nice.
Kasha, what's the go? We're coiling on the highest, the summer level. What's the qua? It's the Nandi sessions with Mr. Showdem. It's the fa of live music. It's the go on SABC Plus. Catch the JR Feel Good sessions at 6 Fridays only on SABC 1. Mzansi for sure.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's take one or two voice notes now before we move on to that story. We will be telling you the story around Ithala and the mooted liquidation thereof involving the Prudential Authority of the South African Reserve Bank, and that conversation is coming up in just a moment. But let's listen to one or two of your voice notes.
Hey, Thulas, it's good and well that the minister will be meeting the owners of ISCO since they are threatening closure, but it's not the first time that ISCO is threatening closure. Well, it's my hometown, so I still call it ISCO. So we also don't know what were the details of the previous negotiations and the deal, and what is it that went wrong, because I'm getting a feel that whatever it is that was promised previously was never implemented by our government. So can they give us the previous discussions and conclusions and resolutions of the previous discussions of the ISCO threat to closure?
Yeah.
Thanks, Bongi here.
Yeah, thank you for that, Bongi. And I guess your concern is, will it be sustainable this time, or will it be just another band-aid that keeps it going? And I noted that you continue to call it ISCO. Yeah, and I fully understand that. But I get what you're saying, that it's about the assurance that whatever is agreed to, how sure are we that it will be sustainable, and how sure are we that it addresses the underlying issues that have led to the company saying that it's considering closing some of the units that it's considering closing?
Good morning, Thulas. It is steep. That gentleman there disputing the descriptive term steep, he's being disingenuous. It is steep. For instance, I'll be paying 950 extra. What the government was subsidizing me last year, they're still subsidizing me the same amount for 2025, yet I have to pay 950 extra. That's a lot. That is steep. It's so steep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I pulled back because, when I was talking to the principal officer of the government employees medical scheme, I pulled back when he was challenging the use of the term steep in the description, because he said it sets the narrative in a particular way. But I pulled back because I didn't want to make it about me. It had to be about the reasons behind the increase. 13.4% increase on average. You've described it as steep, and I'll leave it at that. Let me take one more. I think it's also on the issue of illegal mining.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Let me help you. There is a charge for illegal mining. In the rural areas, if police can find you loading a sand in a truck, you'll be arrested for that. There's a charge for that. It's illegal mining. You have make a big hole in certain areas where children could lose their lives, or livestock, or anyone, or you put some others in danger. There is a charge for that. Illegal mining. If you don't know, I thank you, Peter and Kruger.
Thanks, Peter. And I think I understand what you're talking about. And I would want to say we've got to differentiate between the crimes that are created in terms of our environmental laws. Some of the activities that you describe, I don't know, I could be wrong, and I'm willing to accept that. But it sounds to me that some of them have to do with environmental crime. So mining for sand, for example, in my mind, my immediate mind just thinks that my mind immediately thinks that that would fall within, offenses created by the various statutes that govern the environment. Illegal mining, at least according to what I read, certainly from the Minerals Council South Africa and their assessment, no category of crime has been created that says illegal mining, and that's part of what the Minerals Council was diagnosing as a problem, to say that you catch these guys and then the worst you can charge them with is trespassing, theft of minerals and the likes, but you don't really have a crime to which you could attach a severe sentence as such that addresses this particular issue that we face. But I could be wrong, but as far as I understand in my reading recently on that is that you need a specific crime that says illegal mining is severely punishable by a sentence of this much or a fine of this much. Let's take a quick break and we'll continue in just a moment.
Defending champions Bayer Leverkusen want to stay close to the log leaders, while Borussia Mönchengladbach are navigating a path to the top four. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Bayer Leverkusen versus Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday, 18 January at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Wekundu Wamsimbazi are playing for maximum points to finish top of Group A. But CSC strongly believe that their first position belongs to them. This is the top table clash of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the delight of African football. Simba Sports Club versus CS Constantine. This Sunday, 19 January at 3 p.m. Live on SABC 1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
It's the new year and time for new low-cost insurance on your older car with Outsurance Essential. With Outsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. You can even top it up with motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
To this story now that developed over the last while. In fact, overnight, we got a statement coming out from the National Treasury saying that following the Prudential Authority's application for provisional liquidation of Ithala, state-owned company, we understand that depositors may be concerned about the safety of their funds. National Treasury going on to assure the retail depositors of Ithala that their deposits will be protected by a government guarantee subject to the conclusion of necessary technical work. Let's welcome into the conversation Dr. Thulani Vilakazi, who is the CEO of Ithala. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So what brought us to this point, Dr. Vilakazi?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. What has brought us to this point is the intention by the PA to actually apply for provisional liquidation. However, there's been processes before this where we have been engaged at the level of national as well as provincial government level because our main challenge has always been with Ithala that we don't have a legal framework under which we could operate, as our exemption expired around the 15th of December 2023. And after that, the repayment administrator was put in place after a consent agreement that debt repayment administrator would give us an umbrella to be able to continue operating. However, there's been a diverging of views, which has actually led us to be in court as to what was that consent order that had been agreed upon, because there was no other resolution except putting in a repayment administrator. What I want to assure the public and our customers, in terms of our numbers and in terms of where we're reporting and the quality of our report that we're provided, Ithala is solvent. Our assets far exceeds our liabilities. Recently, as you are aware, there's even a published Auditor General of South Africa statement for the year ended the 31st of 2024, where it confirms our going concern status. I think what is amiss here is that there was a process that had been taken between all our stakeholders around Ithala. And because there is a parallel process of the repayment administrator whose job is to look at the assets, is to look and safeguard the deposits, there's been almost a blinding of each other in terms of which process is actually, because these processes have got to go parallel. Unfortunately, because we're a government entity and we operate under the PFMA, some of the things that we had put in place, for instance, to negotiate, get alliances and so on, get support from National Treasury, have taken longer than expected. Not that they were not going to be put in place.
I'm battling,
but we have been, yes.
Dr. Vilakazi, I'm battling with the concept of the Prudential Authority within the Reserve Bank and the repayment administrator that you're saying was appointed in your context. I'm battling with the idea of them jumping the gun and going this route, which we all know is rather drastic, to go the route of provisional liquidation if there's absolutely nothing to be concerned about with the state of your ability to secure the deposits of depositors.
Yeah. Just testimony. The RA, the repayment administrator, has been here for 13 months. For a period of 13 months, we have demonstrated a level of integrity and fiduciary duty of care, where our depositing activities, albeit under the cloud of a matter that's in court, whether we should continue taking those deposits, the soundness of our business, and also making sure that the clients make withdrawals, there is ACP limits and so on. Ithala, for as long as it exists, have never dipped into depositors' funds. In fact, if you look at our key fundamentals, you took around the capital adequacy ratio. On average, that ratio for a period of 10 years has been averaging between 17 and 18%, above the threshold that was even higher for Ithala at 15%. And then you look at net stable funding ratio, availability of cash, solvency, and liquidity. All those ratios were hitting the mark. And in terms of our portfolio, as you are aware, Thulasizwe, we run a very secured portfolio. We don't have personal loans. Our portfolio is secured at almost 99%. So it's a very credible portfolio that we are running. We are saying they've jumped the gun because we should have allowed the processes that our stakeholders in the province and the national minister have been engaged in to be able to find a way.
Yeah.
Because the problem that we are facing is that in the Banks Act, there is no provision for an entity such as Ithala. There is a legal gap or a vacuum in terms of what you do with institutions such as Ithala that is operating as a business entity, and at the same time it does not have the required entry level, like in other countries like Nigeria, where we've been exposed.
Gotcha. So, Dr. Vilakazi,
various entry level points where you could operate as an entity.
So unequivocally, you can assure depositors of Ithala that if they want to access their savings, there will be no issues. You'll be able to meet those deposit commitments.
And under the current cloud, obviously what changes now is that they've issued an instruction. So we have taken advice, and our stakeholders have advised us to actually take immediate action. We are actually going to court for an urgent interdict to contest some of the instructions that have been issued this week, because some of these instructions are very devastating. We are on the 15th of the month. We have our clients who have school kids, fees being paid, a number of things that are happening. Some have bereavement, and they are in far-flung rural areas. And we are now actually today, after the meeting, special meetings yesterday, we are approaching the court to try and get some relief in terms of what could be done here. But the ultimate solution has to come from a national engagement level as to what type of temporal solution is required. When it comes to the performance, fiduciary duty of care and conduct, as I speak to you, Thulasizwe, we are having our clients in our branch network as well as our staff who are now petrified as to what is happening. And this would have not been the case, because the communication that we do and the nature of our clients, as you know, most of them are actually LSM 2 to 6, which are people that you must literally explain things very thoroughly in terms of what is the aspect. I'm addressing staff as we speak. We're speaking to 400 staff members. We are also dealing with queries that have arisen. We have issues of wellness in our branch environment. We have even some of the clients who are now panicking, and because of the way the communication was delivered, because we were not even given a forewarning as to this was going to happen. So, and therefore, we stand here. We must do what we have to do and act in fiduciary duty of care and skill as directors, and make sure that everybody, at the moment, clients cannot transact. But we will not chase clients away, because if they come in, they need to be communicated to. We need to tell them what's happening. We don't have access to certain channels that have shut us out, the ATM things and so on, that we're explaining to clients. But we will engage our clients and be there and tell them the honest and candidness as to what is happening.
So the position right now, Dr. Vilakazi, is your bank clients at the moment cannot transact on their accounts. Are you saying that's due to the actions that have been put into place by the Prudential Authority?
Yes.
And you are planning to challenge that in court?
Correct.
Just very quickly, you may have heard me making reference. Many people would naturally say, oh, here we go again, another VBS situation. Can you say categorically that we're not looking at another VBS situation here?
I've been in banking for 30 years, Thulasizwe. I'm one of the few black professionals with a doctorate in banking and qualified and worked in African countries. I've never seen a portfolio such as Thulasizwe Limited. This is not another VBS.
All right.
It's not a pyramid scheme.
Thank you.
Here we have our ordinary people who have organized a very sizable savings to GDP ratio, which is very low in this country.
All right.
And they've done this for a longest time.
Yeah,
They
Dr.
need
Vilakazi,
all the support we can give them.
I've got to move on. Thank you for that. That's Dr. Thulani Vilakazi, who is the CEO of Ithala there. And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. And thank you for listening. Thank you for your engagements throughout the morning. The Talking Point with Kathy Moshlahlana up next after the news. And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident, and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187.
In our top stories, a suspect arrested in connection with the matric marks leak, and ANC reacts to Israel-Hamas ceasefire agreement. Good morning. The Hawks have confirmed the arrest of a 21-year-old suspect in the online leakage of matric results. The Basic Education Department lodged a complaint that matric results were being sold for about 100 rand on the internet last weekend. This was ahead of the release of the results earlier this week. Nomtsikilelo Mtabela reports.
The Hawks descended upon a house in Hillcrest, north of Johannesburg, after their search and seizure warrant was approved. The Hawks proceeded to the identified premises where a 21-year-old man and his parents were residing. During the search, various electronic gadgets and an unlicensed shotgun with live ammunition were found. and further investigation into the matric result leakage will continue.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the meeting he held with ministers and senior business leaders at the union buildings in Pretoria as constructive. He says the aim of the meeting he convened yesterday was to reiterate the government-business partnership's unwavering commitment to revitalize the national economy. The partnership is seeking to accelerate the necessary reforms to grow the economy. Tsepo Mongai reports.
In a statement, the presidency says partners acknowledged that while considerable progress has been made, there's a need to accelerate efforts to deliver on the ambitious plans. Government is rolling out phase 2 of structural reforms called Operation Vulindlela in the areas of energy, transport, crime prevention and youth employment.
Zimbabwe's Consul General to South Africa, Ria Phiri, has pledged to work with the SAPS to identify the bodies of his country's citizens. They are among the 78 bodies retrieved from a disused mine in Stilfontein in the northwest. In the government-led operations, 246 illegal miners have also been brought to the surface. Phiri accompanied the acting Provincial Police Commissioner, Patrick Asaneng, on a visit to the disused mine, from where